Today we're about to do a Wedding Crashers first. We've had a ton of amazing shows planned for you guys that we've been working on, and then what feels like the zombie apocalypse just hit us out of nowhere. So we want to keep you laughing, keep things lighthearted throughout these weeks or months that we're all about to experience together. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to attempt to do virtual podcasts. We have a bunch of amazing guests lined up that still want to do their shows. If this works, it's going to be a way for us to keep you guys entertained, to keep you laughing throughout the next couple weeks, which, are looking kind of rough for everybody. Today's episode is killer. We got Jeni Green. She's coming on to talk about insurance. And I know that sounds boring, but wow, we learned so much from Jeni, and you guys are too. And like always, it's probably 1% of learning and 99% of shenanigans. So get your popcorn. Listen, it's probably not gonna sound the greatest. It might not look the best. We have all our professional mics and stuff, but they're not here where we are, where we're each recording. So whatever.
Welcome to the Wedding Crashers Podcast.
He's putting his pants back on.
What do you need those for?
Yo.
Hey.
There he is.
Hey, I'm not putting my pants back on. I'm actually trying to switch over to the mic in my headphones.
If you go to audio settings,
That's what I'm doing.
yeah, you can choose the microphone.
Wait, what?
Or you can just unplug it and plug it right back in.
How does my audio sound?
I mean, other than your stupid voice, it sounds good.
Well, wait, I don't think I did this settings thing you're talking about.
Cheers.
Your computer.
Oh, it did work.
Give me 1 second. I just want to see how this looks. I feel like it probably won't look great. Hold on a second.
Hello.
No.
That's lighting.
I spent like 30 minutes setting up this dope-ass lighting, and I was going to have like my camera pointed this way, and it looked like garbage, so I scrapped it 5 minutes ago.
What happened?
I spent like 30 minutes setting up like this dope lighting behind my desk because this background sucks, and I was going to point like a camera this way. I scrapped it. It didn't look great.
Like, fuck this. And now it looks like you're either the guy in chair for like a superhero or a murderer.
Just keep your eyes out for ghosts in the
Yeah.
background. Boom. Did it.
Boom. Did it. It's done.
Your settings.
Is it weird if I eat a banana while we do this?
To who's talking?
What?
Yes, mine is. Whoever is talking tends
Okay,
to
cool.
come into the
Wow,
full
look
screen.
at Jenny and her AirPods. So cool.
Yeah, they're gonna die halfway through the episode.
Everything I have is lightning cable at this point. So.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I can't wait for the world to not be ending. I'm going to get those new AirPod Pros. I'm so excited.
Super dope. You know what's funny is my new laptop has like all USB-C, like all that fancy stuff, and a headphone jack.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was like, huh, weird. Took
Hey,
another
Ted,
phone.
you
and left it in the
gonna
computer.
make it over there? You look like you're gonna fall asleep. You taking a
It's
nap?
so uncomfortable.
Look at those plugs on the left.
Yeah, I
I just like making you uncomfortable about it. It's all right. Oh, Corona. Get that fucking big thumb out of there.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Crashers podcast. I'm really excited to be with you guys tonight. I'm here with my co-host, Tommy, Mike, and our special guest, Jeni. We'll definitely go around and introduce everybody real soon, but I wanted to make a quick comment about the situation going on in our world right now. Obviously,
Guys, Ted lost his legs. That's why he's laying in a bed.
it's very comfortable.
All right, start again. I can't do that. I was going to laugh the whole time. That's all I can think about is you laying down. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So this is a special edition of the Wedding Crashers podcast. Obviously, we're instructed to not go and congregate together, and we don't want to get each other sick or spread anything. So we're doing this online, which is pretty exciting. We're going to try it out and see how it works. But we wanted to just send a message out to everybody that is watching that our thoughts and prayers go out to you guys, anybody who's dealing with some negative fallout from this coronavirus thing. Obviously, it's going to be difficult times for everybody. We're very sensitive to that, and we don't want to come across insensitive with our joking and camaraderie that we have in this show. We're just meant to, liven things up a little bit and keep a smile on your face. So please enjoy the show. Have fun with us tonight. And good luck with everything.
It looks like you fell out. Look at you on that chair.
What is that? Oh.
All right, let's go.
Tommy's face is so funny.
All right, great.
That was good.
Hey, remember
right?
last week when we made fun of a ginger for like 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to seem insensitive towards coronavirus, but fuck the gingers. Am I right? Like, we probably should apologize at the beginning of that episode. Anyway, all right, kick it off. Yeah, so this is my first time meeting you. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I am a wedding photographer based out of Lehigh Valley. But more than that, I also am a full-time insurance professional. I've been doing insurance for 10 years. Combination of personal insurance and commercial insurance. So I've kind of used that over the years to try to help people in the creative professions try to find insurance answers and insurance solutions that help them, and it helps me too. You know, very good at helping clients with, like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't stand on that fence. It's that unique approach to things.
That's pretty awesome. So specifically, when you say like commercial and personal, you're talking about like personal, like liability insurance, homeowners insurance, stuff like that.
Yeah, home, auto. So I spent a bunch of years doing that.
Nice. And then commercial, you're doing
business insurance. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
So general liability, property, workman's comp, kind of anything that falls into that realm that you might need for your business, I work with.
That's super awesome. That's a super cool industry. Did you, so I always think it's funny, like the things we bring from our other industries into like the photography world and the wedding world. So which was first? Were you a photographer first or insurance professional first?
They actually, weirdly enough, kind of came right around the same time.
Cool.
So not by much. I mean, I started photography probably, about 10 years ago, which is right around when I ended up in the insurance industry. So kind of been doing them hand in hand, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started, were you running your own business when you started in the insurance game? Like, did you know, basically, I guess what I'm getting at is like, did you know the tricks of the trade to kind of like set up your business insurance the right way when you first started, or did you kind of have a learning curve there as well?
No, I had no idea. So I started out working for a large company, working at a corporate company, doing personal insurance. So everything I learned about business insurance was just kind of, studying for the exam. So I'm licensed in the state of Pennsylvania. And in the state of Pennsylvania, when you get licensed, you are licensed in both commercial and personal insurance.
Oh, cool,
even if you don't use both of them at the same time, you have to pass the test for both of them. So I learned it and then kind of promptly forgot it for a couple of years, and then circled back to doing commercial insurance when I left corporate insurance and started working for a local agent. And then that was when I was able to circle back more towards it. So did I always kind of know? Yeah, but to the degree that I know now, not close.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. What would you say, just to like jump 10 steps forward real quick, like top 1 or 2 mistakes that people make when they're like getting insurance for their business?
I feel like Michael and I have had this conversation quite a few times, especially creatives not getting professional liability or errors and omissions insurance. Single biggest mistake someone in the creative field can make when it comes to insurance, in my opinion.
Okay, well,
Jenny,
what does that mean?
That's because a lot of the stuff we do is actually covered under that, right? Not covered under general liability.
So again, disclaimer, anything that I tell you, anything I say is not, advice. Talk to your own agent. I'm giving everybody kind of general information, but yeah, that's, a huge percentage of what we do falls under professional liability or errors and omissions. Insurance, especially for creatives, a lot of us want to go, well, what can I get? What's the best price I can get? What's the cheapest thing I can do? Which I get it, especially people who are starting out, because you need insurance right away in this industry. You don't, the minute you start working with a person, or even if you're doing like product photography or anything, the minute you start working with something other than like your own dog, like you need insurance, you need to be protected. And the minute, understandable, because you're not bringing in money to cover that overhead right away. But that's the kind of one of the biggest exposures that we have. Someone comes back and they're unhappy with their final product or some sort of contractual issue. That stuff doesn't fall under general liability, which is what most creatives, getting into the industry and getting insurance for the first time, that's what they're looking. I just need that general liability,
Right.
And yeah, if you take your client to a park and that client trips and falls and breaks a leg and then they try to sue you, okay, yeah, that's your general liability that's going to pick up. But that's not really what happens to us most of the time when someone comes after us.
Right. And there's a reason that's so cheap when it comes to what we do, right? It's because what we do it's low risk.
Exactly. It's not a huge exposure. Photographers it's not hard to get insurance for most photographers or, videographers, anyone really in the creative field. It's not super, super hard to get insurance. There's lots of companies out there and lots of competition, people that are willing to write it, because that's not a super huge exposure for us. It really is. It's the professional exposure that's bigger for us than the regular old general liability exposure.
Right. What so how far, I feel like I'm asking all the questions. That's okay though. Fuck you guys. So how far can you get? And I know I said this when I first started out, and I know I've heard other people say it, but it's well, I'm just starting out. I don't have anything from them to take if they do sue me. So what does it matter? I don't need insurance yet.
Terrible philosophy.
Yep.
And this is a philosophy that, when I talk to people about this is a discussion that's had when I was talking to clients who I talked to about, personal insurance, when I was doing home and auto, commercial insurance. What you have to keep in mind is, especially, you hear this a lot. I'm going to kind of slip away from commercial insurance for a second. But you hear this a lot with the 16, 18-year-old driver who gets a brand new car and doesn't have money to pay their insurance bill. And they're like, I only need the state minimum coverage. It's no, because what happens is you get sued, and you only have, let's say, so again, the state of Pennsylvania, on an auto policy, you only have the state minimum. Well, okay, so it covers, let's say, $15,000 of what you get sued for when you hurt somebody in a car accident. But it takes that lawyer $10 to place a judgment on a lien against you. And in 10 years, when you have your shit together, there goes your money. And it costs them pennies on the dollar to renew that lien. So being I don't have anything for them to take, you might not have it now, but you might have it in 5 years. And when you have it, they're coming for it. So
yeah, I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize and skip over. They don't realize this can come bite you later, and they can keep coming and keep coming.
Yep.
It seems kind of cruel, but it's the way that shit happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we said you started out kind of around the same time. You learned personal insurance and then kind of went through the business insurance. As your business grew, what changes were you making in your insurance? Or did you go straight to Hiscox or one of those other major companies, or did you go through the company you were with, or what?
I actually went to the company that I had my personal insurance with when I first started. To me, it was just the easiest solution. And again, since I was working kind of for one of the corporates, one of the bigger writing companies, I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who to go to. So I was like, I'll just go to my personal agent. I had been with them since I was 16. And I was like, this is safe. And, got a what we call BOP policy, or business owner's policy. And it served me well for a long time. And I still have a business owner's policy. And that's, when we say business owner's policy in the insurance industry, that's a type of policy. It's not just referring to the fact that I own a business, it covers my business. And I was with that company for quite a few years. And then I switched over to a different company based on pricing, but also based on coverage and based on knowledge of the people who were servicing me, which is a big, big thing for me. Price cannot be the end all when it comes to insurance. It just can't. You need people who know what they're talking about, and you need people who are going to be in your corner when push comes to shove if something does happen. Price is always a factor, but if I'm talking $50 and I know this agent is better, or I click with this agent more, or this company has a better reputation, I'm going to pay the $50 more a year to know that I'm well taken care of.
It's like a wedding vendor.
It really is. I mean, it's no different when you're looking for someone to service your insurance than it is when our clients are looking for someone to service us from photography or videography or calligraphy or anything else that we're talking about, for sure.
Yeah, but you know what? With price, it seems like a lot of people I talk to that go from those huge policies, like you mentioned Hiscox or something like that, and then go talk to a broker or an agent, their policies sometimes stay the same or go down because they have a lot in those that they don't even need, right? Or they're not really written the way they need it, right? Does that make sense? Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm leaving.
Am I right?
No. So business owners' policies, again, that BOP policy that we talk about a lot. BOP policies have a lot of built-in coverages into them, and in a lot of cases, you can't remove those coverages. They're just coverages that are given to everybody.
Yeah.
And different companies have different packages and enhancements that they add on, and you might only need, let's say, 2 or 3 pieces of that enhancement, but it's cheaper for you to purchase that whole enhancement than it is for you to buy just those 3 pieces separately.
Yeah.
I know I've done a couple of insurance quotes for people here lately, and they've been like, I don't know, my insurance went up $15 and or worked on quotes, $15. And you know what? Here's the thing is, what you have to keep in mind with some of us, we have low dollar policies. We have policies that hover around $500 a year.
Yeah, right.
And so $15 on $500, it's not a lot, but it's something. And, if you have time to shop that policy, it doesn't hurt to shop it. As long as you're going into it with the reality is that that's a low dollar figure policy, and you may not be able to beat it.
Right. And what are you looking to cover? What are you worried about, and what are your real liabilities? Right.
Exactly.
I would assume I'd be on something very secure on errors and omissions if I was shooting on a camera with one card. And I know I usually make a joke about that. I'm not right now. Right.
Wow, we got there. We're already on 1 card slot.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. Again, I'm not giving you, this is not advice.
Yeah, we got you.
I can't understand anyone in our industry having professional liability that doesn't match their general liability. I'm just going to put it that's what I'm going to say.
Okay. I didn't think that's what you were going to say. That was fine. Really brutally honest. I'm like, that sounds fine.
I can't imagine, and I can't. I would never, I won't carry less than what my general liability is. Again, it doesn't make sense because so much of our exposure is that professional piece of it.
Right. I didn't know there was a difference.
If I'm going to sit here and say, I need $1 million in general liability. Well, if I'm saying that, then I sure as shit need $1 million in professional liability.
Right. Well, I mean, how do you? So this. I'm saying, how would I as a professional know this? Because I
yelling at the guests.
No, I look at it because I go. The reason I have $1 or $2 million in general liability is because the venues tell me I have to have it. Right. That's the information I go off of. So I go, okay, so I don't really know what I need. I'm doing this to fill that need, and I'm like, it protects me. That's great. I don't. So my next question was going to probably go off on this. I'll let you finish this one first, but. I know way less about this than I probably should. The reason I mentioned Hiscox, that's what I used. I just went with this makes sense, and I read through the stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I read a lot of legal documents and regulations and stuff like that, so I'm pretty good at reading through that stuff. So I carefully read through everything to try and educate myself, and then chose the policy I thought made sense. I don't know if it's right. I think it is, but I don't know. My next question was going to be who are the major players in choosing an insurance policy? Who should we be going to? Because there's a difference between picking something online like I did, insurance brokers, insurance agents, right? All these different things. Who are the people, who are the main people?
So your insurance agents and brokers are going to be the people I'm going to recommend the most. You're going to have your insurance, you're going to have insurance agents that work with one company, and you can go to them and that's fine, and they can write you great policies. Or you can go to the insurance agents who carry multiple companies and who work with multiple carriers. And in my opinion, when you're trying to see what's my best bang for the buck, that's the best way to go. It's not that they necessarily even know more, but as a starting place, they're going to be able to compare multiple companies for you and get you multiple quotes, and then compare the coverages as well with those quotes. So that would always be My recommendation would be to, talk to someone who can get you multiple quotes. If you want to talk to people who can't, that's fine, but then you're doing more work by calling multiple companies or multiple agents.
Right.
I personally don't like the plug and play, like online type stuff, just because you don't have anyone explaining to you what it is. Do you need it? Do you not need it? How much do you need? And that is, a lot of creatives do go that way. So that's, I think, a little bit of a disconnect in our industry, is that we need it, and a lot of creatives don't get the insurance until they need it. So then they just grab what they think they need, or like what you said, the venues tell them they need. And they're like, well, that's what I need. That's what I need to be able to work there. So that's what I'll get.
Tommy told me before we started to not put my hand up here, to look like I'm relaxing. He said, don't do that. But hey, so that actually happened to me.
What happened to you? We didn't do any examples.
I know. No, what she just said. So that's what happened to me. I use Hiscox as well. And I made a claim last year that I ended up having to not use. I ended up taking it back. But
awesome.
A camera of mine got wet.
Take-backs.
A camera of mine got wet at a beach photo shoot. And I got soaking wet, and it got a bunch of sand and water and all that stuff in there. Well, the camera stopped working, so I called up the insurance company, and they went through everything with me. They were really helpful. It was wonderful. But I found out that there's a different type of, so I have equipment insurance up to a certain amount. Well, that amount changes if I was using the equipment outside of my normal business location. I forget what that's called.
Personal property off premises.
Yeah. So I thankfully hit right at that limit. It was like $2,500, even though I'm thinking I have 10,000 or 15,000 coverage. I really don't, because I'm a wedding photographer. I'm never at home or my office taking pictures. Like, I don't need to do that.
See, this is what's so good about this show.
So,
there are so many people that are going to hear this and be like,
so thankfully I got lucky, and I didn't end up needing more than just that little bit. But let's say I was at a wedding and I lost everything and it was all gone, like $20,000 worth of equipment or 10,000 or whatever. They would not cover all of that because I wasn't properly
It's
covered.
10,000. So. You shoot Nikon, it's only 10,000.
No, I think it's right around there.
No, you said worth, not what you spent.
So it's worth like 50,000.
I'm kidding.
I'm
like kidding. 50,000. I mean, to you, maybe.
Where'd you get it? IKEA?
So anyway, that's a good thing. I actually have to do that.
Right. I got a Nikon camera.
No, he has the Nikon mirrorless.
Anyway. That's true.
One card slot, baby.
The best stuff. The best
stuff. How much professional liability insurance would you recommend for somebody who shoots on one card slot? That's all I'm asking.
They don't even cover.
You know what? We're talking about this right now.
It's somehow worse than a drone. It's worse than a drone.
We're talking about this right now. I would trust my one XQD card versus 4 of your SD cards.
It's failed already.
You literally have lost clips.
No, that was not the card.
Literally lost the
cameras. That was the camera's firmware. That had nothing to do with the card.
That's the same thing.
Nope. It's not the same
come on, dude.
Come on. Card, I trust that.
Already here. It is the zombie apocalypse right out that window, and we're here already.
No, the technology is newer. The SD cards are like the same age that the fax machine came out.
What?
Yeah, they're old. They're old.
You're thinking of a floppy disk, you dumb fuck.
No. SD cards suck. XQD is the future. Get over it.
Literally nobody agrees. That's okay.
Whatever. Moving on.
Love it.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's actually, it's a really good point, honestly, Ted. It's something, seriously, people don't realize that, I've got business personal property. Great. And if you're a studio photographer and your equipment never leaves your studio, you're fine with business personal property, but when you're in our realm of things, you have to there's business personal property off premises, or even inland marine, which is, like what I carry, is my equipment is all on inland marine coverage. And you have to have something, you have to have the coverage that's going to protect you when you take it off of the premises listed on your insurance policy. Otherwise, you could be in that position.
And to your point, I would not have known that if that didn't happen to me. And to your point, like talking to a real agent or a broker, they're going to make sure that I know about that stuff, because they're going to ask what I do, where I'm going to be doing it, versus what I did prior was just buy my insurance policy online. And that's the difference. That's what I think the professionalism comes in, to really make sure we're covered, because this isn't a hobby. Like, our friend Bo talks about this all the time. Like, this is a serious business. You have to take everything serious, have your tripod for your business set up. And I think insurance is a really big deal. So
Yeah, when he said tripod, that's stealing from Bo. That is what he calls the lawyer, accountant, insurance broker. Like you have to have the three.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. And people don't realize that the insurance person is kind of an after, or it's just an afterthought. It's I have insurance because I need it, not because it's the same thing. It's the same mentality with any kind of insurance. So it's how people feel about their health insurance. People don't care about what it covers until something bad happens, and then it's like, oh, like shit, I better, It's the same thing with your car insurance, with your business insurance. Like,
so do you think
no
a
one
lot of
says?
No, go ahead, Jenny.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh man.
No, you go ahead.
Do you think I have an interesting thought on this. Do you think a lot of people don't go to brokers right away because maybe they assume it costs them money to do it? Kind of like I see it almost
Taxes.
like a real estate agent where it's like it doesn't really cost you much, but they help you navigate the things you don't know about.
Or people think like I'm going to sell you something you don't need.
Yeah.
And in my experience, in all of my insurance experience working, in as somebody who sold insurance at one point in time, and then as working now as someone who supports people who sell insurance, I don't find that to be the case. It's not professional. Right. It gives you a bad reputation when you sell people things they don't need. And the reality of it is that most people don't naturally tend to over-insure. So you're not going to come to me and I'm not going to go, wow, you have way too much insurance. That I don't think that has ever happened. I maybe once in my entire 10 years of being an insurance person have I been able to be like, wow, I don't know if that person needs that much insurance. But if they're comfortable with it and they want to pay for it, then hey, good on them. But I do. I think there's sort of a stigma, oh, it's like a used car salesman. Like, oh, I'm getting something I don't need, or, they make money when they sell it to me. So they're going to try to sell me things I don't need. And it's not the case in my experience.
Right. They still have a service part to do, just like a travel agent or a real estate agent, somebody who's providing a service that's, it's going to make them money, but they want to do the best for you so that you come back. Right.
By the way, I'm just noticing, I think my headphones don't have mics on them.
They don't, Mike.
I don't see one.
Damn. I thought I did good. I didn't.
So I equate all the stuff we're talking about to, in the very beginning when you first start your business, it's, we just talked about the tripod. But let's say on the beginning side of that, you decide to do your legal stuff with LegalZoom. You copy a contract off of some template you found on the internet. Then for, taxes, you do everything on like TurboTax, and then for insurance, you just go online and buy a policy, if you even do some of that. But then when you get to a certain level, or ideally everybody should do this right in the beginning, they just don't know how to, or think they're losing a lot of money, so they don't. But we really should do this the right way to make sure we're covered, because at the end of the day, we can lose this thing we love doing if we're not doing things properly. Especially me now, I don't have a second job anymore. This is my only job. So I have to take this super serious and make sure I have everything covered the proper way.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something to pay attention to.
Every time I talk, I get hungry.
Wow. Can you guys hear me? Because I'm not popping up in the thing when I talk.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you pop up.
I can hear you.
Oh, really? It's weird.
Yeah, the way my screen is, a little green box goes over whoever's talking.
Right. Gotcha.
Should be.
This app is fun.
I'm never the green box. I just went over to that version and I'm still not popping up.
Did you set your settings up to do that?
I don't know. Whatever.
In your preferences, you can set it up where your box will highlight when you're
Hands
talking.
off my box, Ted.
Yeah, it's in
my own personal property.
It's in video settings under spotlight it's under meetings, spotlight my video when speaking. Well, it's kind of not fun. Go into settings and then under video, meetings, spotlight my video when speaking.
Oh, I got it. Look at that.
Atta girl.
Oh, hey, there I am.
All right. Cool. All right. Yeah, this is guys. This is way too subdued and professional for us. This is
I know, right? Let's do some fun stuff.
What the fuck is going on?
So, Jenny, tell us how you started off doing photography.
Real quick, I meant to mention this because I've mentioned the last 3 episodes.
And furthermore,
Ted literally, as she's telling her origin story, just like every past guest, is like sucking down a fucking soda. Just like every time I'm like, I'm proud of you, buddy.
No noise.
You didn't crinkle the can, dude. I'm proud of you.
Right.
How are they
Those are in
not
my
falling
zone.
on your face? Like your computer's like here. How is it not like right on your face?
don't get
All
it,
those
dude.
cookies.
I'm not completely here. I'll show you now.
Don't
like,
show us.
Now I'm fully reclined.
Christ, he fucking might as well. You look like you're supposed to be on a TLC show, dude.
Dude, this is my zone. You don't even know. I have my fan right here in case I get too hot. I have a little holder for my iPhone so I can do like video chatting online. I have my hard
This is how
drive
people
plugged
get
in.
fused into their fucking chairs and pulled out with a
This
fucking
is the
crane.
story of my
Ted.
600-pound life for sure.
I didn't want to say it,
this
but
is
thank
fantastic.
you. That's it. There you go. That's what I'm fucking referencing. I hoped when I said TLC, everybody would get it.
No.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Ted.
This is my zone,
Just one
man.
moment.
At least his iPad hasn't rang yet.
I was gonna actually bring that up, but I was late.
Let's make sure my ringer's off.
Your iPad gonna ring, Ted?
Oh, Jesus.
The dog's
So I made a
over
promo
here.
video today. It was a lot of fun.
Doubt it.
I learned that I have some sort of nervous tick when I'm being filmed. I hope I don't do it during the podcast.
What do you do?
It's like
He was rewatching his sex tape. That's how I found it.
sort of clear my throat, but I make it like a small burp.
Oh, yeah, you fucking for sure do that.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize I did that. until
You
I
did
saw
it
this
during the
video I
intro.
just made.
Is it like your tick when you're about to tell someone some bad news and you're always like,
I think it's less
let
of
me
a
tell you
tick.
something.
I think it's less of a tick.
Oh,
and
there,
more
you just did it again.
I think it's like a clearing a throat thing. I don't know.
I don't
like
think it's a
swallowing.
tick. I don't think it's a tick. I think it's just something fucking disgusting you do.
I thought that was one of the symptoms of the coronavirus. You might want to
It
get that
for
checked
sure it is. Too soon? Maybe. I don't know. Corona time. It's not funny.
Funny.
Stop laughing at my jokes. No. Yeah. So many
out. And
other
we're
things.
back.
We're back.
So,
Every time you say super serious, I want to reference the Batman college humor videos where it's like super
Wait,
serious.
Jenny likes cool stuff like that. Have you ever seen
oh my
those?
god, it's so funny.
I do, like right up here in the top right-hand corner.
I
You can
saw
see
this.
like all my Arrowverse related art right up. Not all of it, but
Oh, nice.
What is it?
I'm like super into DC TV, so this is like a
That's
whole
dope.
series of.
Okay, where do you live at?
Actually, this artist is based in New Jersey. He
They
lives
don't
in
get
New Jersey.
Marvel. They don't get Marvel there.
I
Wow.
love
I'm
Marvel
kidding.
too,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everybody, calm down.
but no,
So-
yeah, that's mine.
Do you watch
Batman.
Smallville? Because we're super into Smallville.
I did not watch Smallville.
Probably good. That's
I love
terrible.
I
it.
know. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, that
Is
part
Teen
of like
Titans
the comic
good?
version of me came a little bit later
Okay.
in my
good.
life.
Because we love the new DC stuff, but usually for most of them, they like the first couple seasons are great, and then they kind of like fall off.
So College Humor did a thing called Badman. Like it's a make fun of a Batman. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
We reference it all the time.
Oh my god, they're so funny. You have
I'm a
to watch them.
Dude, watch
Are you
the
kidding me?
start
I'm gonna
with-
watch them after this.
Dying
You have to start with Batman finds his voice.
Yeah, that's the intro.
That's the
one.
best one. That's the best one. Oh my god.
Wait,
No,
can
that's
we
so
watch
funny.
it? Can you pull it up on yours
No.
and we will watch it right now?
We should
no.
totally watch it right now.
I mean, I could screen share it.
I'm a man.
No, we can't. We can't put
Do it. Just do it.
No, yeah, maybe. All right.
I'll cut it out. We don't.
My Pacino. Maybe I am Al Pacino. You don't know. What you do at night, huh? Fight crime. No. Where were the drugs going?
Dr. Fishy, no!
Okay.
Anyway, Batman's awesome. Those videos
Right.
are fun.
No. Those DC shows are supposedly dope. Though I haven't watched any of them. But like, because I heard I want to watch The Flash. That's like the one I'm super interested in. That and Arrow. But I heard The Flash is good for like 2 seasons and then sucks. And like I don't. Anytime I hear that, I'm like, nah, I'm out. Like I'm not gonna get into something and then hate it.
I have a lot of opinions about that.
Is it?
Yeah,
is
I-
it
A lot
good or
of
bad?
opinions
A
about
lot of
that.
opinions. Okay, is it concurrent with what I said or?
I can get past 2 seasons, but I'm not current on The Flash. I
Okay.
mean, it's recording, like it records, but I don't think I've watched a single episode.
I think
and
the biggest turnoff to DC TV shows to me was the CW. Like nothing good's on the CW.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen Vampire Diaries? It's pretty good.
no.
Proving my point. Proving my fucking point.
remember.
Yeah. All I know about the
Generally that age
CW
rate.
is
well,
it's like a
no.
bad
Old for TV.
public television station.
Well, I love The Arrow for the first couple seasons. After that, I was like, no way.
Talking about Broken Arrow, it's a pretty good movie.
Then The Flash actually lasted a little bit longer for me. We still like watching it. It's still enjoyable, but it's not as good as it was in the very beginning, like at all.
That's surprising.
Yeah, the other shows are decent. I mean, we're not really super into all of them. Actually,
feel
no, the
like-
ones I really liked were the Marvel, the four they just had on Netflix. Those were all phenomenal. Love them.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, I couldn't get. I
I like that.
I don't know the character, so I
darker.
didn't want to get into it. Like I was like,
It was a lot darker.
I don't know who that is, so I don't give a shit. What is it? Punisher? Is that one of them?
Yeah, that was fun.
The guy who plays the Punisher is in the movie Fury, and he plays the redneck in the World War II, or maybe World War I. I don't remember.
He was in the first season of The Walking Dead, and he was really good in that.
Right. So he was in Fury, but he plays like this bastard redneck who's just like a real piece of shit. And I was like, man, I can't get past that. Like it just stuck in my head.
He's a good actor. He definitely can play some different roles.
Yeah, he's versatile for sure.
I could get into that, but yeah, I feel like the bar is so high for television and film right now. Like you have to TV shows that fucking Amazon's putting out are like amazing. Netflix is putting out amazing shit. Like you better be giving me gold when you put out a TV show now. And some of these shows I'm like, Like
the problem is network TV can't do that.
No.
Because they can't go as far as those shows can go, and they
adapt
can't.
or die.
And the budgets are different too, and it's just it's
dude, $1.5 billion on the Lord of the Rings TV show that Amazon's putting out. I mean, like that's unheard of for a fucking TV show.
When does that come out?
Not soon enough. I think next year sometime.
I didn't hear of this.
I'm pretty sure they're filming now. Oh, dude, it's there's a lot of story there.
Yeah, I think we should bring it up every single episode, but Lego Masters is legit. We had something really good.
Good show.
I didn't watch it yet. What is it? Like reality TV?
It's right after The Masked Singer.
Can we talk about how Love is Blind is like this huge thing?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Everybody and their mother's talking about this Love is Blind show, and we watched 3 minutes of it, and I was like, turn this shit off.
So
Good segue, Ted.
Segue!
So speaking of, I would love to hear, Jenny, your story of how you got into photography.
Yeah, Jenny.
Weird one. I was
the story or the question?
The story.
Oh, okay, good.
I was getting out of college and took my time going through college, and was a huge music fan. I mean, I still am a huge music fan, but there's a couple of bands out there that I've seen in concert like an inordinate number of times. And I just kind of used to go, and I did some street teaming for a while, straight out of college. Well, I was in college and then right after college, and just kind of happened to get lucky enough to meet some people, and started working for a music blog on the internet, and obviously, and had some opportunities to actually get the chance to interview some musicians back in the day. And with that, I just was always kind of like taking cameras and taking pictures and stuff like that to kind of go along with the interviews and the coverage. And somebody just kind of said to me, "Hey, you're pretty good at this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And bought a Rebel just for me, for fun, and for the concerts. And the first gig that I ever had a press pass for, weirdly enough, was Hanson at the House of Blues in Chicago, which is one of those bands I've seen an inordinate number of times, of course.
Mbop is literally gold, okay? I don't care what anybody else says.
They don't like that song is a fucking liar.
Yeah, bunch of assholes.
Listen. But that's where it all kind of started. And I just, from there, someone was like, "Hey, will you do this?" I kind of like felt like, the mom with the camera without ever having kids. So, and it was just something I kind of, from the very start, took seriously, and was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to learn how to do it right. And so I did portraits. I started out like a lot of people do, and I did portraits. And I was very strongly like, I'm never going to shoot a wedding. I don't ever want to mess up. I don't want to screw up someone's big day. I can't do this. But I just got comfortable with being a portrait photographer, and started second shooting. got really lucky and found someone up in the Lehigh Valley who was willing to be like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'd love to have you second shoot. I'm not worried about competition. Like, come learn. And loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so just kind of went from there with it and just have kind of kept going. And now I built my business. Now I'm not that I'm winding it down, but I'm kind of taking a little bit of a step back and doing more work with other people now. And I'm super, super happy with that. But yeah, that was the whole deal. And there is no doubt shooting live concerts, huge help when it comes to like, when you learn early, you can't control anything. Huge help when it came to learning how to deal with weddings.
That makes sense.
That's the number one thing that helped me.
Yeah, we I think probably 2 years into doing wedding films and stuff like that. I don't even remember who was with me. I think Mike, you might have been with me. We tried to film a stage play. Who was it? I can't remember who was with me. But anyway, I tried to film a stage play with somebody who was with me, and like just using using our base equipment, no long lenses, like nothing crazy. I was just like, somebody's like, hey, do you mind? It was for free. It was a friend of ours. And I was like, yeah, I'll try. I was like, I don't know what it's going to be like. And we go there and the friggin' stage lights were so bright. I was like, oh my God, like how do I even, and with like, they'd have stuff in the background, but like the stage lights were so bright that everything else was incredibly dark.
Yep.
Like there was just no way to balance it. It was a lot to work with. And in the short couple hours that I did that, I was like, nope, don't want to do that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Ted, you know what that means. You're rustling around too much over there. Crunching up your
it's
cookie
on my
wrappers
forehead.
and playing with your
No,
drinks.
I was just scratching my forehead.
His hands were not at his forehead.
You are not watching, sir.
Hashtag what was Ted doing? Let's get
Where did he go?
let's get that trending. Yeah, where'd you go last episode, dude?
Did you see that, Ted, where the Twilight music plays when we can't find you?
I had to go to the bathroom. I was holding it for so long.
All right.
I was like, I'm out. And I came back and you guys were talking about me. It was funny.
Head poop. Yeah. So, all right, all right. So you said, so do you primarily do weddings now?
Yes.
Primarily do weddings. Do you still do the portrait side at all?
Only when asked. I rarely, I don't really advertise it. I think there's still a portrait gallery on my website right now, but I'm also just about to launch a new website, which will not have a portrait gallery on it. So yeah, I mean, weddings are definitely the primary bread and butter of my business.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has like that one or two things they'll do if asked. Yeah. It's not something I want to do anymore. And people will be like, hey, do you do this? I'm like, sure. Yeah, I guess. Not like primarily, but yeah, I'll do it. Like for me, like family shoots are like that. Like I have a really hard time connecting with family shoots, like finding the emotional connection, stuff like that there. It's different if it's like in a lifestyle setting, but like somebody's like, hey, can you see some like outside, like on the beach shots of us? I'm like, I'm probably not your guy.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff too.
And like,
you should start a game like that. Like, what's the one thing you wouldn't want to shoot, and then just go round robin.
Right, newborns tough. What was it?
Funerals.
I've done that.
Does anybody do that?
That's becoming a thing for video. A lot of people asking for that. I mean, people specialize in it, but not my jam.
I would definitely do a funeral, but I know from some other things I've seen, like the death stares you're going to get from people that don't know you were hired for it and don't think you should be doing what you're doing are going to like stare right through you to your soul. That's not going to be comfortable. And I would cry the entire time. So,
yeah,
it'd be
you gotta get some like fucking mood stabilizers or something there, boss.
No, I like crying, man. A good cry is important once in a while.
Don't you guys like take walks through cemeteries? You're surrounded by dead people all the time?
Yeah, all the time.
No.
What is that shit?
In Hamilton, it's kind of like the park. I don't know. I don't know. Her dad works at the cemetery too. So when we drive up or walk up and down the trails, her dad comes and visits with the kids and talks for a little bit.
Just so we're clear, he doesn't live in the cemetery, does he? Like he's alive, right?
No, he just helps dig the holes and gets ready for the services and what not.
Oh wait, you're serious?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were telling us a story.
Amy likes it because for her it's a workout to do the walking because it's a big hill right in the middle of the cemetery, and the basic little roads go up the hill, and she pushes our two boys in a stroller. Which, if you've seen them, they're giant. They don't belong in a stroller. They're huge. But she puts them in a stroller anyway, the double stroller, so she can push them up the hill and get a workout and get her heart rate up to over 150 and blah, blah, blah.
That's cool.
She likes going with me because it's just something fun she enjoys. She likes talking with me while we walk, so I go with her.
Yeah, no, that's cool. We weren't making fun of that part, Ted. All right, Jenny, so what's one thing you would not want to shoot?
Close newborns, without a doubt.
Okay, that's good.
That's a lot of people. I have done some recently, and it was like for a family, and it's, again, something I was like, nah, I shouldn't be doing this. I did it like kind of lifestyle. Definitely not my forte, but holy shit, I mean, that's a whole art to just doing the session, like getting the temperature right and timing it right, doing all that shit.
I used to do it. I actually used to do it, and I enjoyed it at one point. And there was a fine line for me. There was a session that I did. And I may regret telling this story, but that's okay. I did a session for a friend, and it was a long-term friend. They did not ask me for a discount, but I offered one because we had known each other that long, and I wanted to do it. And I sent them here's what you need to do. Here's what I need from you. Here's how this is going to be successful. And they listened to jack shit of everything I said. And it was the worst experience of my life. It was terrible, fussy baby, miserable. And every time I would be like, well, it's because he's cold. They were like, no, like, look at how red he is. I'm like, he's red from screaming, like, not because he's hot.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm done. This was, and I think I got 12 usable images out of it. Sent
Oh
it
my God.
which they paid nothing. I gave them the session for free. So they paid nothing.
That sucks.
12, and I never heard a thank you. And I was like, now I'm done.
Yeah, you know what? It's experiences like that do suck the joy out of certain things. You're like, I'm like, man, there are experiences that I've had lately. It's like make you fall out of love with a certain thing, like a certain specific style. And it's ebb and flow. And then you find one where you get a client that you absolutely love, and it like kind of makes you fall back in love with that style. But newborn's tough, man. You're relying on a lot of stuff.
It happens with everything, though. You talk about that client experience. You have that bad client. I had it fall of 2017. I almost threw in the towel and was like, just had a terrible client experience. And wedding wise, I mean, the worst thing I think I possibly could have ever imagined happening to me when it came to, and I was just like, I'm done. And I'm glad I didn't, but I genuinely thought I was going to. I was like, if this is how heartless people are, I don't want to be in business anymore, is really what it came to. And I was like, no.
Ted, what's your thing you won't shoot?
I
can't say newborn. Can't say newborn.
Well, all right, then I would say dance studio pictures.
Ooh.
Well, that's interesting.
That feels very pointed.
Well, I used to do that. We did it for a couple of years, and there were two problems. The moms, it was an unbelievable headache to like deal with some of the moms for this whole thing. But the amount of work that I had to put in to finish the job was months of work for, 1 day's worth of pay for a wedding. So it, like after a couple of years of doing that for 2 summers, I was just like, I'm done with this. I can't do it again.
I have a buddy who does that, and he's awesome dude. He's very like he's been doing it for a really long time. And I wouldn't say as a hobby, but as a business, just like as a side business, picking stuff up here and there. Doesn't really advertise, but he's been doing dance studio work for a long time. That and like shows and like school stuff, not like school photos, but like those kind of things. And I went to talk to him and he's like, oh, well, how did you charge for it? And I was like, I started to kind of like spin this in my head of like how I would make it work. And he's like, oh, no, I do it like this. And it's like with like order forms and keeping track. And they take an envelope with this person's name and this person's like what package they booked and this and that. And then like they send everything out. I'm like, that's a fucking headache. Holy shit.
That's a headache.
Yeah, it's too much.
That's
a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I would never do that. That's great. Actually, no, that's not true. I would do it, but I'd probably price myself at a point where no one would ever hire me to do it.
Well, and you could also like, I'm sure if I did it for years and years, there would be systems that would be developed, because systems make everything easier and give you less stress. And if you've thought of every single thing that could happen, then you can have a system for it. I just didn't have that, and I was kind of doing everything on my own, and it was just a massive headache. So it was easier for me at the very beginning to get rid of it. Plus, once I found weddings, that was where my heart was. I loved that,
Right. Yeah, and I think for me, so my aunt's a portrait photographer up north. Photoplicity is the name of her studio, and she does like it's like family and kids portraiture, and some simple style newborn stuff. But like the idea of doing a wedding to her is like completely revolting. She's like, fucking never, absolutely not, no fucking way. And I was like, I wonder how I never felt that. And I think it's because like really, I started in weddings. Like the first thing we did was a wedding. Like I had done some, like I did a maternity section as my first photo shoot, but like my first like couple major projects were weddings. So I was like, oh yeah, this is the thing. Like, this is what we do. And I kind of followed Mike into that. That's like, all right, what are we going to do? Well, my two sister-in-laws are getting married. All right, cool. Let's go do that. and then like, I had a couple friends who were getting married. So like, we just kind of like jumped into that. So maybe that's why I didn't think of it like that ever, but I don't know. Great talk, guys. Holy shit. What the fuck?
That got quite fast.
Yeah, right? Oh my God.
Wow. I was playing with my video settings. I don't know
So
where they are.
let's talk about you're in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
right? So I don't know. I know they were talking about at this business meeting or business talk that Mike and Bo were giving. Yeah. I don't know the fuck this was, but you know what I'm saying? This business talk we were at, they were talking about the laws in Philly are changing, and the laws in a lot of the states are changing about employees versus 1099 and all that kind of stuff. Workman's comp insurance is something that gets thrown around a lot.
Let's talk about that.
Let's do it. Let's get in on what is it? What does it entail? How expensive is it? Do I need it?
Yeah, work comp, I mean, obviously pricing depends on what you do. So any, people who will have different kinds of people who will be interested in, watching this, and that'll depend on what you pay. That every company has a different rate too. So this is another situation where you compare your companies. The other thing with work comp is if you ever end up with a company, if you're new, like if you're a new venture or you haven't had work comp before, you might be more limited in who wants to write it. So most states then have a state plan for work comp that you can go through to start. Or if you're under like a certain premium or a certain number of employees, you really need to be careful, quite frankly, when it comes to your who you're considering subcontractors versus people who you consider employees. Now that's an accounting and legal thing as well, but even from an insurance standpoint, something really, really, really kind of slight tangent off of work comp, but I can tell you that probably 99% of the people in this industry do not do this, and they need to be doing it. When you hire a subcontractor, you need to get a copy of their certificate of insurance with you listed as an additional insured.
Whoa. Really?
When you work for someone, or when someone works for you?
So if I go to work for Michael,
uh-huh.
Michael needs to ask me for a copy of my certificate of insurance, and he needs to be listed as an additional insured.
Michael needs to ask you for a flashlight.
What?
Michael needs to ask you for a flashlight.
No, we lost him.
There. Now he's gone again.
What the hell is he doing over there?
I don't know.
That is Pornhub. I can tell right now. I know what's happening on the screen.
I'm raising my brightness and lowering it.
And I can tell you that because I second shoot and associate shoot a lot, and I've never been asked.
That's interesting.
It's a really good tip.
Reality of it is that if I'm working for Michael and I'm the cause of some sort of incident, he wants to have my certificate of insurance on file, because then if it's me and my negligence, his company can be protected under my insurance. If he's
Okay,
listed
that's
as
cool.
insured, my negligence covered. You know, there's, and believe it or not, it's in the fine print of a lot of your insurance policies. If you have subcontractors, are you getting certificates of insurance? It's in the fine print. Nobody reads it and they don't realize it. It's a huge liability to you as a business to not be doing that.
Wow.
I feel like this
That is
whole
interesting.
show, that one sentence, worth the whole show for people.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, this is why you need to talk to your insurance. So, again, I'm not sure. I know you answered it, and I'm not sure I understand, though, the difference between like an insurance agent, insurance broker, and then like the other people that you talk to.
People will interchange the terms brokers and agents a little bit, because you'll have insurance agents who, again, function and only service one company. But then you have the insurance agents who will who work with multiple companies. And that's also a broker at that point in time. They're brokering business to other companies, basically.
Right. And who's the one, like, so if I go to an agent and I buy a policy, who do I go to? Am I going directly to that agent with a claim, or like?
Your agent can usually be involved in reporting that claim for you, or following up, or supporting you if you need it. But most claims related issues are actually handled at the company level. Like for me, if I was an agent, if I was your agent, I wouldn't really have any part of settling your claim. I wouldn't be deciding if it gets paid out or how much gets paid out.
Okay.
But I can support you through the process of dealing with a claim.
Right. That's cool. Okay, good. So that's the other part that's important about choosing the right person, the person you gel with too.
Yeah, it's a huge piece.
So I have a question. What else? We're kind of talking about some of the stuff already. What are some other things that you've seen people in the creative field need in a policy? We've talked about general liability. We've talked about equipment. What are some other things that you think people can benefit from in their policy?
Well, I mean, professional liability for sure. Again.
Oh, what's the difference? You mentioned that. What's the difference between general liability and professional liability?
So general liability is the stuff that, like, you and I are having we're having a session. You're shooting my family, and I fall and I trip and I break my leg. I can sue you because you picked a terrible location and I fell and broke my leg. That's general liability.
Are you saying I can do that to Ted?
Sure, absolutely. I'm not saying you'll win, but you can certainly try.
Fair enough. Give it the old college try.
So if I trip down his stairs when we're recording the podcast at his house, that's a good idea.
Whoa, that's against
never happening.
regulations.
I am not suggesting that.
I would never let that happen in my house, and that would be homeowners insurance, I believe.
Well, that's what else we should talk about.
You're doing the course of business.
It's not business. We haven't made any money.
Although, wait, Ted, you are a member of the company that booked the podcast. I don't think you can sue him.
Fuck you, Ted. I can't sue your own company.
You can't.
Well, I'm just joking. But, like, obviously there's some different things to talk about. So professional, general, equipment.
That's general liability. Someone gets injured. Professional liability is your one card slot fails. That's professional liability.
I'm glad you have that. What a shitty color.
They have to pick a color, man. There's only a couple.
I happen to follow and like quite a few Nikon shooters. It's just Ted.
Jealousy runs deep.
Now, I will say, and I've said this recently about just to go to the one card slot thing again. We shot on Sony's for a video that had one card slot forever. Now the difference is you usually have multiple cameras running with multiple angles, but we did that for a while because the gear just wasn't there. Mike had a Nikon before that, but like I had the benefit of starting on Sony and a mirrorless that I never had to switch to mirrorless because I started in mirrorless. Now that being said, when we first started, the gear was not ready. Right. There was one card slot and all that kind of shit. Now there's no excuse now to do that unless you're just fanboying, because there is good shit available with 2 card slots.
Yeah, like this.
Does that have 2 card slots? That'd be fucking amazing if it did. That would make me laugh so hard.
It doesn't.
Oh my God. I'm thinking GoPro is better than Nikon.
Let's just go. It's better than a Z6.
No.
Hey, Ted, you melted into that chair over there? What are you doing?
Yeah, you
No,
gonna
I'm
be
good.
all right?
It's
Are
just-
you immovable? Is that one of those chairs that just lifts you up at the end?
No, that'd be cool though. That's next.
It's that. Have you guys seen that battery commercial where the
No.
girl's playing the game and she's sinking back into the chair? No.
No. Is that Ted? That's
That's-
definitely Ted.
What's going on there?
If
Yeah,
only
but
Ted had-
that's
good.
professional liability is the card thing, or someone's unhappy with the finished product. Or
Is that different than errors and omissions?
no, professional liability and errors and omissions are interchangeable terms typically in the
Okay,
insurance.
nice.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Ted, you comfy, bro?
Almost.
Dude, I'm just waiting. You guys know those like fail videos on YouTube? I'm just waiting for us to see Ted's angle come crashing into his face.
So wait, hold on.
Don't-
Can you guys hear?
Don't get my
fan?
fucking hopes up, Mike.
Can you guys hear my fan?
No.
No? You can put your
So
fan
weird.
on. It's okay to be comfortable. Chill out.
Wow, can you actually
That
move your face like you just
that.
did? It was amazing to see the camera warp. I'm serious. I'm serious. Just like go in and out like you just did. That was kind of crazy. Camera angle. Now go back. All right, maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Just you.
Just like watching you do stupid stuff.
He's so jelly of my cameras, my chair.
I'm not, for sure not.
I can
for sure
get you
not.
one of these chairs, man. I made
No,
it.
man. I just asked if you had a chair that you could just sit up in.
I'm just
Like
wondering where
an
you get
adult.
a cool nickname like that from.
Yeah.
I mean,
All
I
right.
could go downstairs and sit in front of my microwave. That's fine.
Hey, it's a dope microwave. Listen, Captain, we're gonna get back on topic. So
So wait, so
All right.
what else? So we talked about professional, general liability,
So we're
equipment. What else?
stop shaking
You
those
need work comp.
Sasquatch
obviously.
hands.
If
Yeah.
you have employees, you need work comp insurance. I mean, that's a legal thing, but that's how you also protect yourself.
Mike mentioned something earlier. I don't know if you finished fully talking about it. So if you have second shooters, do you have to have workman's comp for every single one of them if they're 1099?
I don't remember mentioning that.
He
Okay,
didn't.
well,
We did get on a topic of work comp.
Your Honor, I did not mention that. I'm kidding.
I've heard about this recently from a couple people, and they do have, like, they don't have anything else, but they have workman's comp for 1099 employees.
Ooh.
So
They don't have anything else.
Well, I mean, like, other than, like,
they don't have actual employees.
they don't take state,
Okay. Got it.
Employment tax and stuff like that. Yeah.
So in theory, this is like theoretical. If your employees don't have their own insurance, or not employees, but 1099s, you could possibly cover them under work comp. 1099s are really a gray area, and I mean that's beyond insurance. Like that's a huge gray area with 1099s. Who is actually a 1099? Who is actually a subcontractor is a huge thing. And while it's a legal thing and a like an accounting issue, it's also an insurance issue. You definitely, I see plenty of audits. So when you're over a certain amount of premium, you can be you're usually audited every year, and that's where they ask you for your payrolls to make sure that they're rating you appropriately when it comes to work comp. Because you take out your policy when you first start, you might say, I've got $60,000 in payroll. The company wants to make sure you're not lying to them, so they'll audit you. And that's over a certain premium, usually. And so they'll audit you, and they want to make sure. And, the reality of it is when they audit you, like so say my policy is January 1st to January 1st. So January 1st of 2020 comes around, and then I'll have to go through the audit process. And let's say I started the year reporting $60,000 of payroll. And if they audit me and it was $120,000 of payroll, I will owe that back premium.
Oh
Interesting.
shit.
So
Now, when you say audit, that's an insurance audit, right? Not an
correct.
IRS audit.
Insurance audit, yes.
So
See, Mike, I don't know if are you there, Mike? You want to turn your fucking brightness up, champ?
Did you ever see Paul Rudd does this thing when he takes selfies with people? He like moves his hand in certain ways over their camera lens so it looks like a butt above their head. I'm gonna start doing that.
That's dope.
So this is actually something I really, really want to know about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors involved in this, but talk about dual zoning for your house and how insurance plays a part in that, whether you're covered or not covered, if it's your insurance policy or someone else's insurance policy, homeowners versus the business liability if you're in the same building, of your own home, but you're also dual zoned?
It's more of an issue with your personal insurance than it is with your business insurance. Your business
and the local laws.
You can pretty much you can pretty much write a business policy on I don't want to say you can't write a business policy on any property. That's a lie. But if I'm a home-based business, it's not hard for me to get a business policy based on being a home-based business. It's your personal insurance where that becomes a big issue because the liability exposure is so different. And I personally didn't deal with a lot of that kind of dual zoning things. I have dealt with a couple of odd issues. I dealt with a couple of homeowners who also I never really dealt with homeowners who had small businesses based in their property, because most small business isn't having someone come to their property. It's just that we're working out of our properties. We have office exposures, and that's fine. But when people have people coming to the property, that's actually, or storage. So this is outside of the creative realm, but like if you do construction or roofing or something like that, and you're doing storage at your property, that can be a bigger issue, but that's on the personal side of things, like with roofing, like they don't, personal insurance, they don't want to touch some of that roofing chemicals. Like they're like, I don't care if it's on the property. Like I want out. I don't want that. I don't want to be exposed to that. So
basically we should consult with a professional,
always
in these kind of instances, just to make sure we're on the level with stuff.
If you don't and something bad happens, your ass could be grass, and you just don't want that. My grandmother right there.
I'm even thinking of like hairstylists who start off having their own business in their house, stuff like that. I would assume is also.
Do people do that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have to rent a chair space in New Jersey,
And with a hairstylist, when you think of the I don't want to be like the chemical exposure, but when you think of chemical exposure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My question, you talked about the audit and stuff like that for payroll taxes. What do people do? And again, this is kind of the difference in between just doing what I did, which is like just click a policy online and like try your best, versus like actually talking to an agent. So what would be if I say payroll is going to be 60,000 for next year, and I do a shit ton of business and my payroll is 120,000? At what point do I need to contact my insurance and tell them that it's gone up? Is it once I hit that threshold, or before or after, or what?
At any point in time you realize your payroll is going to be higher, call your insurance agent, because they can make the adjustments. And the earlier they make the adjustment, the more spread out the more time you'll have to make the payment.
Right.
So if you don't report any of that, like let's say halfway through the year, you have 6 months into your policy, you're going to hit 120,000. Call.
Okay.
Because they'll have the adjustment made, and then you'll have more time to pay that adjustment, versus where if you don't say anything and then at the end of the year it comes back and you have $120,000 in payroll, you're going to get hit with all of that, and you're going to be expected to pay it right away.
Right.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you say payroll, are you talking about W-2 only?
So work compensation can cover subcontractors. That is on a company by company basis and how they'll hit you for it. So you can be charged for subcontractors who are not carrying their own insurance. You can be audited on workers' compensation, but you can also be audited on your general liability. And in general liability, if you have workers who are subcontractors, this is where, when I say to you, you need to get a certificate from all of your subcontractors, this is where this comes up, because they're going to want to know how much did you pay for your employees, subcontractors, et cetera. They're going to ask you that question. And you're going to say, I paid $120,000 subcontractors. Okay, show me the certificates. Well, if you don't show the certificates, you're going to get hit paying for that exposure.
Okay, so if they have the certificates and you did a good job doing that all year long, like let's say you worked with 15 people and each one of them gave you a certificate of insurance with you listed as an additional insured, then you don't have to pay for insurance necessarily for them.
Right. Now, work comp workers' compensation is definitely different than general liability. With general liability, that's typically the case. Work comp can be a little bit different, but again, it's a matter of making sure your 1099 employees are your 1099 contractors are true 1099 contractors. Just kind of always default to that, making sure you're following the guidance of whatever locality you're in, and keeping that, and then you'll be fine with your insurance as well. Typically,
it's funny that keeps coming up now with like the New Jersey laws changing and things like that, where they're saying like, oh, now we got to make sure. It's like, no, it's multifaceted. It's not just taxes. It's not just the Department of Labor. It's your insurance as well that's going to say, hey, make sure that this is correct.
You'll get hit for it if you don't. So that's the thing about it. You'll pay for it.
This is all very, very fascinating. Thank you very much for sharing everything.
Yeah, of course.
This has been a lot of fun.
That
Always,
is not over.
I know. I'm just saying thank you. I can say thank you whenever I want.
True.
Boom.
Can you sit up wherever you want, or are you fused to that fucking chair?
Thank you very much for everything.
Mike, are you okay?
I went to do like a funny thing of what Ted's doing, but my headphones are plugged into my iMac and it almost came flying towards me.
Talk to your insurance agents.
That's like saying.
Well, I don't have one. I have Hiscox, so I'm gonna talk to a real one soon.
You know what though?
Let me be very clear about things.
Yeah, there you go.
There is nothing wrong with the policies that you get through some of those online companies, because those companies are extremely reputable. The policies that you're getting are worthwhile. They're reputable. They're backed.
Good.
These are good companies. There's just you don't have that that person who's looking out for you. That's the only downside to that. Really, it's not that you're not dealing with great companies. Hiscox is a fantastic company. I can write with Hiscox, where I work currently, but you're not having a Jeni who is going to tell you like, hey, you only have $35,000 of personal liability right now. That's not enough.
Okay.
Right.
And I can tell you that till I'm blue in the face. And this is kind of.
Hey, don't joke about that. That's a coronavirus symptom.
I know.
Solemn thoughts.
Pour one out for the fall.
I think Mike's camera has coronavirus.
No, I'm using a Nikon for this right now. That's why I can't see anything.
You're not.
Poor little late performance. It's okay. Okay. Jenny's gonna be like, I'm done. No. Nikon, I'm out of here. Fuck you guys.
It's really getting the right person on your side is just such a big piece of it. And I've had a couple of people where I've quoted, they've sent me their policies, and I'm like, I can't beat this, and I'm not gonna lie to someone who comes to me. Like, I'll be like, this is a good policy, I can't beat it, or this is a good policy, but it could be better, and here's where it needs to be better. And one thing to keep in mind too is like when you're with a company like, let's say Hiscox or the Hartford or Travelers or any of those, really any company, if you're unhappy with your service, so if you have an agent and you're unhappy with your service, you can take that policy to another agent. Like, you're not stuck with that agent. There's this thing called broker of record. So you're like, this person isn't taking care of me, and I can't get a hold of them when I need a certificate, and they're not doing anything for me. Don't settle when it comes to insurance. Like, it's kind of like a spouse. Don't settle for your spouse. Don't settle for insurance. Because as you three, I think, are kind of learning tonight, there's a lot to it, and having someone who really knows. And I don't know everything about insurance, even in there. You never stop learning in the insurance world. This whole coronavirus thing. I knew, and we haven't touched on it, but let's talk about it.
We're there. Let's go.
I knew, you learn kind of early on what is a covered claim, what is a covered loss, what is excluded, that kind of stuff. I can't put into words the number of calls that I've taken this week of people who are like, hey, so my business income or my business interruption, this will cover me, right? And the unfortunate answer with coronavirus is no, it won't. There is, and I can't say with 100% certainty, but there's no coverage for disease. When it comes to claims for business income loss, it typically requires what we call a direct cause of loss. Your building burns down, your gear is stolen, direct physical cause of loss.
And I think it's probably direct to you, right?
Right, exactly.
Zombie apocalypse, not
Zombie apocalypse doesn't count. Pandemic.
Get out the samurai swords and the nail guns. Take care of business on your own.
Nail gun.
Yes,
Worse,
Necronomicon.
worse than that. Those things. Oh, sorry about that. Worse than that. Those things aren't specifically included. They're usually specifically excluded. Like disease is usually specifically excluded
yeah.
in the policy.
I mean, that's a bad bet, right? In reality, the insurance company's making a bet. They're gambling that something's not going to happen.
I got the flu at this wedding, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
or I got the chicken pox at this wedding, or you know, someone could, you know, try to sue you for the, you know, it's, my heart breaks. I have taken so many calls, and I mean, you know, to kind of be the softer side of insurance for once, you know, people, again, I think people think insurance agents are used car salesmen. I really think that people put us on, you know, people are like, oh, the insurance company's ripping me off, or like people who work in insurance for long periods of time, typically do so because they genuinely care about protecting people, about helping people, about making sure that like you guys aren't going to lose your businesses. You know, like I want to make sure you're not going to lose your business. You're not going to lose your home. I want to make sure that you're taken care of. And I want to make sure you're taken care of for the right price. But it has been breaking my heart, the phone calls that I've been taking, the emails I've had to answer. I have customers, and again, you know, I have customers who are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost revenue already.
Yeah, I was going to say, it makes sense that they write it that way because nothing's ever happened like this, where it's the whole world is being compromised.
Not in the lifetime that this kind of insurance has been a thing. You know, 1918, you know, Spanish influenza was kind of the last time we had anything really like this.
But like realistically, all those claims, there's no way to pay that. Like from a
about
business
9/11. 9/11 almost bankrupted the insurance industry. And that's why, so if you probably don't realize it, but there are terrorism charges or exclusions on your insurance policies. And that's where that all came from. That all came from 9/11 because it almost bankrupted insurance companies. And it really does. You know, I have a very hard time, you know, when that call comes in and, you know, the customer says to me, hey, I'm Jeni, this covers this, right? I'm out $100,000. My heart sinks because I don't want to say to you, no, it doesn't.
Right.
But the conversation then has to be, it doesn't cover anybody. You know, it's not as though I'm a bad insurance person and I didn't make sure you have that coverage. It didn't cover anybody for that.
Well, there's a reason that you only pay dollars into insurance a month, right? And you can get like $100,000 worth of coverage or $1 million worth of coverage for $10 a month. You're not paying that $1 million, right? It's because insurance is a gamble, right? They're making a bet on something's not going to happen. They can't cover every bet, right? They can't say this is going to happen. So it has to be only things that can happen to you. And typically the safest bet, the stuff they want to cover, I'm assuming is going to be stuff that they can find somebody liable and tap into their insurance, right? And tap into them.
Well, and always think of insurance. Insurance is a shared pool of risk. That's the way of thinking of it. So, you know, yes, I have a claim and it might affect your, you know, it's like New Jersey, when the hurricanes happen, you know, New Jersey and Sandy happen, and everyone, you know, a lot of people had to file claims, and a lot of other people's insurance went up who didn't have to file claims. But the reality of it is insurance is a shared pool of risk. We're all paying in so that we can all reap the benefits if we ever need it. And if you really sit down, if I file a $1,500 claim and I have a $250 deductible, my insurance is going to go up after I file that claim. The company might make their money back on me in that instance. But if I file, you know, if someone files a suit against me and the insurance company pays $1 million on my behalf, the company's never going to recoup that money. If they pay $10,000 on my behalf, my insurance policy is typically not going up enough that they're getting that $10,000 back. So, you know, from an insurance perspective, to everyone, you know, who wants to be like, oh, insurance is such a ripoff, and it's not. It's not a ripoff when you need it, and it's no one ever complains about having too much insurance until they need it and they don't have enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So obviously you've been talking about how some of the things this week have been super sad that you haven't been able to, say yes to people when they're asking these questions. Can you tell us some stories of different instances when you could say yes? Like, yes, your policy covers this. Thank God you got the right stuff in the beginning, and now you're taken care of. Can you give some stories about that?
Building burns down. Let's say if you're a manufacturer, so I'm going to, slip away a little bit from being a creative, but if you're a man, we have manufacturers, the building burns down. Well, if the building burns down, you can't make your plastic spoons, then you're out business income, so that can kick in and help you. If you're a studio photographer and your business, your studio burns down, that, you have business income loss, that can help you.
Can you think of any specific stories?
I really haven't had much, knock on wood, thank heavens.
Okay.
Big claims aren't a huge thing. Big claims aren't as much, don't happen as often as people
They're more
think.
rare, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for people like us, it might be our gear is stolen or it's damaged, and I've had that happen a couple of times. And companies usually are really good about making sure you get your money in a timely manner. Cooperate with your insurance company, and the insurance company will take care of you. So answer all their questions, fill out their paperwork, and they will typically do the best they can to get you guys taken care of as quickly as possible.
It's amazing the scale of insurance, right? From our end to, maybe like replacing a $1,500 camera or a $3,000 camera to some of the other industries out there that rely on insurance. There's stuff to jump into the nuclear world real quick, that in the nuclear industry that I deal with, where like when I was working at 3 Mile Island, every couple of years, they go in to the melted unit and walk through the reactor building. And I go like, why the hell are we going in there? Well, we have to walk it through the insurance company, right? The insurance company wants to go in and see this property that they insured and make sure it's still standing. There's no structural damage. There's no further issues or something like that to keep the insurance policy up. There's documents that I'll write tomorrow that will be held for the life of the plant plus 50 years.
Absolutely.
For the insurance policy.
Absolutely.
Right? Because of unsubstantiated claims. You're talking of like hundreds of millions of dollars in a single claim, right? Like, and they got to cover that, right? So someone's got to pay that. You'll see battles go back and forth between companies that provide a piece of equipment, and the piece of equipment fails and causes a major loss, like the plant to shut down for days where they're losing $1 million a day. And there's a fight, right, between, did we cause the piece of equipment to fail? Did we break it? Or did it fail because of some manufacturing piece? Who's going to pay for it, right? Whose insurance is going to pay for it? Things like that.
And companies love to fight. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Because it's over hundreds of millions of dollars.
But no company wants to take on paying out for things that they're not responsible for.
Absolutely.
So companies, and again, fight, not a negative, but the companies will go back and forth on how much are you responsible for? How much am I responsible for? It's, and that is all in an effort to try to make sure that people pay the proper rates then too, is, and one thing I always like to tell people is that this comes up a lot in personal insurance, but it's the truth kind of across all the insurance. It doesn't matter if you file a $1,500 claim or if you file a $15,000 claim. When your rate goes up, it goes up because you filed a claim, not because of how much is paid out. And it goes back to that idea of, is the company actually going to recoup on what they paid for you? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Insurance companies aren't crooks. And I always kind of want to say, I feel like I have to preface when I say things like that, and that I don't work in a position where I make commission. I care about getting you the proper insurance. I care about making sure people aren't going to lose their homes, aren't going to lose their livelihoods. I'm weirdly passionate about it. I tell people all the time, a couple of years ago, I was absolutely 100% in a position where I could have gone full-time with my photography. I've had many years where my photography income outweighs what I make as an insurance professional. One, I work in insurance, so I'm risk adverse. I would never leave my full-time job. And as much as I hate to say it, this has proven to me why I won't leave my full-time job. But I do it too. Like of all the jobs, because my background, actually, my academic background is psychology, and I also have an MBA. So
Nice.
I have spent a lot of time kind of not working, towards at least academically towards photography or anything like that. I mean, the MBA helps a lot. I'm not so good at my own business, but helping other people with their business is absolutely fantastic. I think sometimes I'm starting a consulting business and I'd be great. But I care about protecting people and helping people. And that's what the majority of us who are in this are in it for. Even the people who are selling tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars in premium every year, they do it because they believe in what they do, not just because it pays the bills or because it can be lucrative. It's because we just, I don't want to see anybody lose their house. I don't want to see anybody lose their livelihood. Right. Yeah.
Is there anything, it's just an interesting question, like, so talking about how you're not covered from coronavirus, is there anything that someone can do on the insurance side to protect them from something like this, or to get themselves set up for a major loss of income where it's really not anybody's fault, not a specific thing, just out of curiosity?
It really depends. So things like this come up on a case-by-case basis. So there's something called the Insurance Services Office, ISO or ISO, that has been responsible for creating a lot of the forms that are used in insurance. They're the people who determine what's called something that's called protection class. So like all properties have a protection class assigned to them. And, that has to do with how protected are you from a fire loss at your property? How fast will the fire department get there? How close are you to a fire hydrant? How likely is it that your home will be your home or your business will be a total loss if a fire occurs? ISO has created some guidance and some potential forms that can help with things like coronavirus, for example. However, insurance is different state to state. So all three of you guys are based in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So insurance is different from state to state. Every state has an insurance commission basically that governs their insurance. And most companies have to file in each state for their rates, for their forms. Ted, you just look super
right. Come on, man. Like, are we doing a podcast or what's happening? Are we boring?
Do they have a policy to protect my recliner?
No.
Fuck. God, thank God not. I hope it fucking burns.
So jealous.
Well, I mean, if your house burns, it would be covered under your personal property, but
yeah.
I just don't understand why you're laying down.
I love it.
I'm not all the way. This is laying down.
Before we started, I was like, Ted, don't you have I know you have a kitchen. Like, I know you have a nice kitchen. You just sit.
That's not comfortable.
Like a dining room table, something. Like, just sit in a chair.
Yeah.
That's not comfortable. I want to be comfortable.
Jesus, we're never doing this again.
It's too easy, right? He can get away with too much.
He has such a problem with people that are different than him.
No,
I think
that's
it's like
not it.
Like a public school thing. I don't know. Everybody's got to conform.
It's not it at all.
Yeah,
conformity sclerosis.
So ISO has created some forms with the coronavirus happening, but they're not filing them on behalf of the companies. They're saying, here's some guidance. If you're interested in this, to the companies, they're saying, here's some guidance. Here's what we think would be a good way of covering this. If you want to use this, you can file it. And so far that, but it's because it's so new, because this is such a happening event, obviously no one has that coverage available yet. So for this particular instance, it doesn't exist. Are there like other weird instances in which you can add coverage? Yes. But I'm going to right now, I'm going to kind of keep it to the coronavirus just because it's relevant. No. And aside from us being vendors, switch it to the side of our clients, the majority of them are not covered under wedding insurance policies as well, which is just absolutely sucktastic. It's
That
terrible.
was awesome.
What the fuck is a wedding insurance policy?
Oh yeah, we
my-
should talk
do you
about that.
not know? Do you guys
I
not
don't know what
this
this is. I feel like I should know what this is, and I don't know what it
We
is.
should talk about this because it's awesome.
Okay.
Tell me everything.
So wedding insurance, I'm getting married. I can buy wedding insurance. So I can buy it to cover a whole bunch of different things. I can buy a policy that's liability. So I might have a venue that requires me to buy it to kind of mitigate their liability. So if I do something as a bride that is negligent, my wedding insurance policy can kick in and cover my negligence.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then some venues that like say don't have on-site catering or aren't all in one, that's a huge thing. It pops up a lot in those venues where
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt you. Why did you just mute your mic, Ted?
No reason.
Did you
No
just
reason
rip
at
one,
all.
dude? Did you just rip
reason.
one?
That did not happen.
We all saw it. Everyone
proof.
saw it.
It's like,
Everyone fucking saw it.
No proof. No proof.
Dude, Fartgate. That's where we're at. Hashtag Fartgate.
Hey, that was smart though, right? Instead of me like not muting it, right? Like, come on.
I mean,
smart.
it was
That
better than
That was sneaky.
not better than not doing it at all. Anyway, sorry.
no, you're good. You guys,
Yeah,
listen.
I had to
We
call
like to
it
we
out.
like to goof
I
off.
saw that
We're-
shit
we're
and
just-
I was like, I got you. All right. All right,
But like, if you
Chairman.
have a venue where your catering isn't necessarily like it's not an all-in-one type venue. They don't do catering on site. You're responsible for picking your own catering venue. You're responsible for bringing your own liquor type things.
Right.
You can be required to get a policy. So you can have general liability, similar to the way we have general liability. You can have liquor liability. So that's, when you have that to make sure that if someone's overserved, that you're protected from them drinking too much and that kind of stuff. The insurance policies can also cover if your photographer doesn't show up, if your venue cancels, if your wedding dress doesn't come. You can get money back on pieces like that.
Nice.
And then event cancellation. So for whatever reason, the whole event has to be canceled. And all those different pieces cost
Except for
different amounts.
coronavirus.
Save for coronavirus.
Well, that's actually a good question. What if they had insurance for their wedding and it covered like the venue canceling their wedding because the venue wasn't open?
Again, it's gonna kind of come down to what the cause of loss is. I can't, and I'm not. Okay, hold that thought. I will be right back. My dog is
Wait, we can take a break. I actually have to get a drink real quick.
Hey, turn your fucking screen up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dude, it looks so much better.
Well, you know what it is when the screen
fucking
switches because he's
It's
on the big
exactly right.
one.
When
So
it
when it goes
switches
to
me,
Tommy,
it
it's the
goes dark.
brightest. Then me, and then Jenny's the medium, and then him. It's like
Just
super
leave
dark.
your brightness up and it looks so much
Like
better.
vampire
On the
face.
grid view, you look like dog shit.
You know what though? It looks when it's bright, it looks cool.
It looks great. Looks great
No,
when
it
it's bright.
doesn't.
Yes, it does.
I got to work on my background.
What?
I got to work on my background.
Nobody can. I'm telling you, you can't see the background. I'm in the grid view. You can't.
Oh,
see.
you're just black. It's just other than your face, it's just.
That was racist, Ted.
one of the dogs wanted into the bedroom. Okay.
Emo Mike.
Look at me like
Hit video, man.
Wait, I'm missing somebody.
Hurry up. Hit
Emo
video.
Mike. Oh yeah, so whoever hosts
line
this
into this, you
gets
guys.
to pick
This is
the names for
the
people.
best you'll ever get.
Tommy, you should change your name to Hairlight Scleros
I don't get it.
or Tommy Hairlight.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, earlier you said hairlight, but really it's just shining off your, scalp.
Right. I think I made that joke, so wouldn't I
Yeah,
get to?
yeah, you
make
should
it-
joke about yourself more.
Fair. Right. I get to do that because of the lights. How's your chair?
Very comfy.
You look like
So
shit.
comfy.
Look terrible.
Actually, I shaved today.
Just lay like this more. Make everybody uncomfortable.
All right.
Show everybody that you're really fucking phoning it in. Oh, look. Ted showed up for work today. Mike, what are you doing, man? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mike's not wearing pants. That's why he turned the camera off to go and put things in the background.
No, I am.
Out of beer.
I'm telling you, I'm a whole bottle of wine in. If you want your
Prove
answer
it.
the way you ask it.
I'm
literally a whole bottle. This is the end of the bottle of wine at this.
All right, well, hold on. If we're re-upping drinks, give me a second.
By the way, I am wearing buffalo plaid pajama pants.
Hey guys.
Hey.
I'm still here. You guys here? I keep like losing my internet connection. Are you guys doing
Mine
that?
keeps saying it's unstable.
No, I have FiOS.
I don't know if you
I've
guys
been
noticed.
fighting with my internet all day though. So.
I don't know if you guys noticed. I got up at the beginning, towards the beginning of the episode, and like walked away. I figured Jenny was talking, so it wasn't an opportunity for you guys to say shit while I was gone. So
I didn't see it.
I was getting up to get these because my feeties were cold.
Wow.
Not mad
Mansion
about
life.
I had been barefoot.
Right? It took me a while to get over to the West Wing, but I got them.
Must be drafty in that mansion.
Gianna goes, "Why did you pick those?" I was like, "It was the only one that Target had for drive up." I wasn't going in the. I was trying to get coronavirus.
Listen.
I keep joking. I only go to Target.
Uh-huh.
We needed to get some food. I quickly ran into Walmart and then got my cough. And I'm like, God damn it. If these Walmart people gave me this coronavirus.
Dude,
I mean, that's the place you'd get it.
So,
No offense.
honestly, if we're going to talk about coronavirus, I went to Montgomery County, right? Not Montco, not looking great. Closed down.
Not looking great.
It closed down on like Thursday, right? Saturday, I had a wedding there. They didn't cancel the wedding, so
Where?
I went Normandy Farms.
Really?
Yeah, awesome venue. I really liked it.
I love it there.
They were great. Hand sanitizing stations everywhere. Not pumped that they weren't wearing gloves, but that was okay. So I talked to the lead cheater ahead of time. You gonna make it, man? You gonna be okay?
Like Karuna?
Right, he for sure does. So I talked to the lead ahead of time, and I was like, "Hey, like, what are we doing?" She's like, "I'm gonna bring my own food and my own water," and I brought hand sanitizer and stuff like that. And I was like, "All right, cool. Like, I'm gonna do that." Well, I did that, but then they brought the food out, and I was like, "This looks pretty good," and like everything smelled really good. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna eat it." So I sat there and I ate the food, and so did like the video guy, the DJ. So I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fun. And then like the next day, or no, it was like 2 days later, I woke up with a cough, and like as we were sitting there eating, I was like, yo, if I get sick and you don't, I'm gonna be so fucking mad.
Well, honestly, it wouldn't be from the food. It would just be from walking through the air.
Well, I was thinking like the handling of the food, right? Like they're coughing on their hands, touching the food, shit like that, right? You're exposing yourself to more people. But they're like, Montco is like the most cases in the area, and I'm like, I'm fucking driving into this bitch. I'm like, it was fine. It was a great wedding. A lot of fun.
Well, you know what's crazy nowadays? I was walking my dog, and one of the neighbors was sanding like furniture, like they're building a table, and had the mask on, and literally takes it off and goes, "Not sick, not sick." And I was like,
Nice.
"All right, I didn't assume you had the zombie virus, but okay."
I was painting my cabinets like 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't find fucking masks because everybody went to buy them. I'm like, dude, the paint like vapor masks
Doesn't work.
And like, yeah, I'm like, that's not what that's for. It's for
the masks
fucking
in general don't work. The masks are only good if you're sick. Keep other people from getting sick.
Right. It's to be nice. People are dumb.
So my brother.
Not the kind of masks I get.
Okay.
It's crazy. I mean, the whole thing is, and again, I'm dealing with it from an insurance perspective, but I'm also dealing, for what's interesting is being an insurance person and working in the wedding industry, I'm dealing with it from two sides. And, there's a lot of people that say, oh, well, you have a full-time job, like, shut up, like, it's not that bad. And
people said that to you?
I think there's an attitude in general about it. I've seen it a lot on Facebook.
Yeah, you do MMA. Punch him in the throat.
Right.
Right? I mean,
right.
I was like, is that Tiger Schulman? Yeah.
But
they got some serious contenders now, man.
That's my fun. That's what I do for fun. Hey, I guess I didn't say that in the beginning about me, but that's what I do for fun. I do MMA.
You did. You were like, hey, I'm Jeni.
MMA's awesome.
Insurance and photographer. I'm
7
also a
classes
badass.
a week. I don't mess around.
Ted, what do you do for fun?
Ted lays in his chair.
Yeah, Jenny, you can come on the show anytime now. That was good enough.
Seriously, though, we have to do this again in person when
we do.
zombie apocalypse is over.
Sure.
When Ted's done hanging out at the cemetery.
Come up with different fun topics.
You should do a cemetery episode. That'd probably be disrespectful.
So I can't do cemeteries.
And he's going to laugh so hard when we watch this together.
We switched off that topic super quick.
Yeah, let's go back to it.
But I actually have a deep-seated fear of cemeteries.
Oh, really?
Super.
That's-
Oh, that's exactly why we should do a cemetery show.
That's like
well,
normal though.
funny you should mention. I'm going to give a shout out, Marshall. I love you.
Oh, shit.
Marshall.
Second shot a wedding for Marshall, and the chapel was in a cemetery, and they wanted to do all their portraits in the cemetery.
Oh, I've done
Yikes.
that.
They're terrible.
It was
Chairman.
fun.
I was basically having a panic attack inside the
Aw.
entire time because
I'm sorry.
I don't do cemeteries to that degree.
So here's something funny. I'm very much like I don't say like a man of science, but like that's like the way to say it, I guess. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in like supernatural shit. I'm very much that way.
Cool.
Mike and I were in Tennessee. Do you know the story I'm gonna tell?
No.
All right.
I remember
So,
all of this, but I don't know where
That
you're going.
being said, Mike and I were in Tennessee, and this is a stupid thing. I get like freaked out by that shit though. Even though I don't believe in any of it, I still get freaked out in shit like that. Like Mike and I walked through a fucking haunted house kind of in Gatlinburg, Tennessee,
Can't do it.
where it was like a zombie thing. And I'm like, I know they're all actors. Like I obviously this isn't gonna like freak me out. It's gonna be fine. We got to literally the scariest thing to me was we turned to this one hallway and it's just pitch black. I was like,
Oh,
Do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not walking, dude. You can walk. I'm not walking. I'm not walking. Definitely not walking. Like it just wasn't gonna happen. I couldn't do it.
I've had two personal ghost like I would call ghost experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neither negative, neither bad. But I can't do cemeteries. For me, cemeteries, it's like that's a sacred place, and that doesn't really. We don't have a place in my mind disturbing that.
Fair enough.
Which is
You
weird
mean
because I did a photo-
you don't have a place like just like trouncing around, having a good old fucking time exercise, right?
I
The kids
weirdly
eat goldfish while we do it.
I weirdly did a photo shoot about a year ago where we did stop at a cemetery, and I wrestled with it a lot internally, but it was a styled shoot, and some of the other vendors I was working with really wanted to see this particular setup.
Dead people.
And
No.
I agreed to it, but I was very specific about how we were going to do it to be respectful, to not be disrespectful. We were looking for mausoleum type things because we were basing it on a television show that took place in New Orleans. And obviously, New Orleans cemeteries are completely different than
What
the
show?
way our cemeteries are. And we wanted that look. And I said, okay, well, we're going to Photoshop any names out. We're not going to, we're not trouncing on graves. We're standing on walkways. We're standing on stairs. Like I have a very, very, like it doesn't.
Feels weird.
Hey,
even
what show?
funerals, weird. We're totally off topic, but even funerals, I can't do funerals. It like feels like something that I have to do. So I shot a funeral once, or like a memorial service / funeral, but like I can't. I draw my line, and I said to Marshall, had I known this, I probably would have told you to find a different second shooter. Like I genuinely, because did I do my work? Did I get the job done? Sure. But I was having a panic attack inside the entire time.
Yeah.
I was just like praying that I would get my job done because I felt like I was losing my mind. The chapel was fine, but when we were doing portraits out in the cemetery, I can't do that.
Can I show you a wedding I shot in a cemetery?
You show it.
Right now? No.
So
Yeah.
she says she doesn't like weddings in cemeteries and
I
gives
had
her
a lot of
panic
fun with it.
I
attacks.
can see it. I have a weird thing about being in cemeteries. Or even funerals.
She'll look at it. Super not
All right,
interested,
I'll
but she'll
show
look
you.
at it.
Death
Story
does
of Ted's
not-
love life.
Death does not go with me.
You know what's funny? We talked about like what's one thing you would not want to shoot. I think we all answered except for Mike.
I said funerals.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you did say funerals. What's something that you haven't shot that you would love to shoot?
Oh, hold on.
Nah, I was gonna like start shaking it.
Lost you guys. There it is. What was the question?
What's a bucket list thing you would want to shoot? Like the opposite of what you would not want to shoot.
I have a
something you would
list.
really want to shoot.
I have a
What is
list. I have a list.
Let's hear it.
Well, so I can't give you the whole list, and I won't give you the whole list.
I
out
can
of
give you my top
embarrassment.
one.
Well, I mean, so I got I would say my first the first gig where I was responsible for delivering was doing music for people that were fairly well known at the time. I have a bucket list of celebrities. I'd like to get more into editorial work and shoot some celebrities.
Fuck yes, editorials. What's up?
And I have a bucket list. I genuinely do. My bucket list is really, really interesting of people. And most of it is based on...
They're all dead.
No, they're all alive.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
It's genuine. It's generally people who have had some sort of impact, I'm going to say, use that term, on my life. One of the things, like if you go to my website, no, I'm not telling you to go to my website, but people who visit my website, one of the things that they say about that they like about me is my about me, because my about me is very candid. I talk a lot about myself, about what I believe, about things that I like and I dislike. And one of the things I say is like meeting your favorite celebrity is life-changing, because there are people out there who always say like, don't meet your heroes.
Mm-hmm.
I've met
Those
a lot
people
of
are fucking idiots.
Well, so I've met a lot of celebrities and or well-known people or semi-well-known people who have really surprised me in genuinely amazing ways. And people also, I think, have to remember that your experience is not another person's experience.
Right.
So a lot of it, too, can be how you approach that person, how you interact with that person, how you treat that person. And so my list is based on a lot of people who've had some sort of impact on my life. Okay, I'll say it. Tyler Blackburn, who was an actor, is someone I would love to photograph.
An actor in... I'm terrible at names.
It's okay. I would say most people probably would know him from the television show Pretty Little Liars.
Okay.
He's also...
I actually know people from that show because they're on Dancing with the Stars, which is my guilty pleasure.
He's on the current season of Roswell. He's on the current show Roswell, New Mexico.
I know who that is.
Yeah. He had a weirdly... strange kind of impact on my life that I'm not gonna like delve into, obviously.
Fair enough.
But
my mind went bad places.
Your mind went. A lot of times it's that is people who for whatever reason I kind of I'd love to capture them in a way that like I see them, in a way that they've like, I want to show them in the way that they've impacted me. And I know that I don't know if I can really put it into words. But I have a list. I genuinely have a list. And I don't know that I'll ever hit that list, that any of that will ever happen. But I actually recently, I went to the SCAD festival. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of it. Being video people, you might have. Savannah College of Art and Design does a couple of festivals every year down in Georgia. And I just went down for their television festival, actually. They call it ATV Fest. And it happens in Atlanta, which is, they have a campus in Atlanta too. And they actually happened to they had a female showrunners panel. So ATV Fest is all about television. As opposed to movies. And they had a female showrunners panel, which was fascinating to me. And I've always wanted to kind of tiptoe into like video, just for personal kind of stuff. I think I shoot photography, and then I sit there and I'm like, God damn, I wish I shot video, because this moment is so cool, and there isn't a photo that I take that can show how cool this moment is.
Yeah.
And I deal with that a lot. I like have this FOMO, and but that female showrunners, what?
You do it.
You should do it.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a call. That female showrunners panel, all of the women on that panel were saying like, do you authentically and do you to the very best of your ability, and someone will take notice of it. Someone, it was just kind of this idea that don't give up. If it's your dream and you want to do it, like do it to 100% of what you have. Karina McKenzie, who is actually the showrunner of Roswell, New Mexico, was one of the panelist, and she was talking about how she was a journalist. She was writing. So we were talking about, you mentioned Vampire Diaries earlier, talking about the CW. She actually started writing editorials, writing reviews of the Vampire Diaries. And
That's so funny.
one of the executive producers, actually two of the executive producers of the Vampire Diaries, took notice of her writings, of the editorials, and they cultivated a relationship with her, like a personal relationship. They got to know her, she got to know them, and she actually eventually ended up writing as a writer's assistant on a show that one of them produced, and then as a writer on that show, and now she's a showrunner. And she was
awesome.
just talking about how when you love, like, just do what you do to 100%, do it authentically and do it to the very best of your ability. So I don't give up on my list, but I don't think it's very, very reasonable. So
that's okay. Most streams aren't, right? And
never
that doesn't
stop.
mean you don't. That doesn't mean you don't attack it. Like you look at Annie Leibovitz, like her whole thing about how she started and like really focused on photojournalism and stuff like that. And now she's doing fucking huge stage production style photos of the stars. You know what I mean?
Super editorial.
Like editorials on my list as well. That's like one of my top things. It's not my thing that I would love to do that I don't do. That's like so far the other way, but it's definitely something I love because it's something. The reason it's not my thing that I'm like I wish I could do it is because I think it's something that I'm like adjacent to. I'm actively trying to move into. So that's the reason it's not. But I love editorial. There's so much awesome stuff. Almost so much awesome work there. Mine's kind of weird. I'll say mine next. Mine's Fresh 48 sessions.
Oh yeah.
Like and active birth photography. I've always been kind of like super into it. My wife's a doula, which is like a birth coach. And it's just like, since for me to not panic about things, I have to understand them. So like when my wife was pregnant for the first time, I was like, all right, well, I won't panic in the delivery if I understand what happened. So I like read books and like watched videos and like looked up as much as I could about it. So like I have a pretty good understanding of it. And I think it's just like such a cool thing. The weirdest thing I've got to do is like right after our first kid was born, when the placenta came out, the midwife actually gave a lesson on the placenta, which is this organ that you create for the purpose of having a baby and then get rid of. Like the fucking craziest thing in the world. She's like, all right, this is the mom side, this is the baby side, and like it's going through this whole thing. This is the coolest shit. I wish I could do that. It's tough, kind of like boudoir, which I've jumped that hurdle. It's tough as a male photographer to work into that industry. It is definitely a female dominated industry, which sounds like a fucking woe is me as a white male. That's kind of tough, but it is harder for me to kind of work into that industry. So it is something that I'm like, especially with 3 kids and a full-time job, the on-call nature of Fresh 48 sessions makes it very unlikely for me to do, but it's something not really Fresh 48. That's not the right term. Birth photography.
Yeah.
Is hard to delve into with anything else, with a lot of other stuff going on. So anyway, that's my, I wish I could do it, but can't, or it's on my list far down. Yeah. What about you, Ted?
Actually, you stole mine. I've always wanted to do birth photography. I think it's fascinating stuff. I just love the whole entire part of, giving birth and having children. I think every aspect of photography is pretty cool in its own right. There's things that excite me and there's things that don't. Like I love a friend of mine. He has a really cool gallery of abandoned buildings across the United States. I think it's just the coolest stuff to look at. When I go to try to take things like that, it just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't excite me. But some things really do, like weddings, obviously. Like, you guys see me. I cry all the freaking time. I love weddings.
I feel gypped. I don't think I saw that.
Maternity sessions I really, really love, but then birth is like alongside of that. And part of it is like my wife had 2 C-sections and they let me take pictures of our second born C-sections, which I think was so cool. Like my wife doesn't really want to look at those things because they were, but I think that'd be so cool for someone to hire me, for me to be on the other end, like getting all of that happening. I think that's like a massive miracle that a human being can do that. I think it's just incredible. but I just haven't done that. And in the past, actually, similar to what you said, in the past, my thing was I can't ever just be signed up for that, months in advance because I probably have to work that day. Well, now I don't. I have my own company. I'm just doing my own thing. So that might be something I can, look into in the future. I don't know. We'll see.
Do it now.
But yeah, that's a.
You have 9 months until all the quarantine babies are born. So
Yeah.
start
that
advertising.
could be a real
That's true.
thing. Could be a real thing.
Absolutely the time to get in on that shit.
Yeah.
For sure. It's for sure a real thing. This shit's brutal.
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I landscape photography isn't that exciting to me. Again, it's cool to look at. To take it myself. I have a friend of mine who does like the Milky Way galaxy stuff and in the middle of the morning, like 3 a.m. and it's so cool, but it's just not really for me to do. But yeah, what about you, Mike?
I thought we were just gonna do like bucket list, like favorite place we want to shoot or whatever. I don't know that I have like
Deep.
philosophical thing I would want to
While
do.
you're thinking of it, I'll
It
add
doesn't
one more
have to
thing.
be.
I made it deep. Sorry about that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be. It's that, like bird photography is something I haven't had a chance to do. It's something I would really like to. I think it's super cool. But what's something that you haven't had a chance to do? I know you used to love landscape photography, or still do, right?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. I love doing landscape photography, but the stupid ones that are not sellable, I love doing kind of like that ultra realistic HDR, ultra reality type landscapes. I actually have a bunch hanging right here, which are super fun. I love that. And then, of course, I love making like documentaries. I think that's eventually what I want to do full time. Like we do that now and it's pretty cool, but it doesn't pay the bills the way weddings do. And then bucket list, I mean, come on, I'm simple. I just want to shoot weddings in Disney.
Right.
Oh,
I'm right there with you. Yeah, you know what though? Like what Mike just said about not paying the bills, the editorial's the same way, man. I know a bunch of photographers who did weddings and editorial, and they eventually went like, "Fuck editorial, I'm just gonna go weddings," because it is. I don't want to say hard to make money, but it is hard to make money.
well, I got out of shooting concerts. I mean, I shot a lot of concerts. So when I started there,
Yeah, that's how I know you from is from concerts. Yeah.
what? Yeah, and I got
you go
out.
to a lot of concerts, Ted?
No, but I remember when you first like started posting the group, everything was about concerts,
Yeah, you really had to you had to get picked up by a band to really you have to get picked up by a band to make money nowadays. You can't, because the bands don't need you anymore, because they can just give here's a press pass, here's a free ticket, shoot our concert, hey, that's good enough, let's go. And I mean, that's serious nowadays. You can make money, but you have to be one of those 1, 2, or 3 people who really gets in with, like I can think of, and I can't think of names right now because I'm a bottle of wine in, but
It's okay.
Yes.
the Jonas Brothers, yes, I'm going there, had a photographer for a long time that they took on the road with them, and obviously he made money. Maroon 5 has had someone that they take a lot with them. Lenny Kravitz. Actually, Matthew Bitton is who photographs Lenny Kravitz most of the time, and obviously he's making money doing that. But there's not a lot of money to be had in that, and it's one of the reasons I got out of it, because I don't think I ever loved anything quite as much as I loved shooting live music. I originally went to college as a vocal performance major. That was
Me too.
that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. There's no money in that either.
No. And, well, I got to the point where I think I realized I would lose my love for it if I felt like I was forced to do it.
Right.
So I got out of it, and then I was going to do music. Music history is actually what I was going to do, and then I got out of that, and then I have a psychology degree now.
That's so funny.
MBA. But
where'd you go to school for music?
What?
Where did you go to school for music?
Bowling Green State University in Ohio.
Okay, nice, awesome.
I tried to go to Westchester and had a terrible audition. Like I just bombed my audition.
That'll happen. We've been there.
That's what sucks with stuff like that is you bomb it and you're done.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way around it. But I would be shooting live music to this day if there was money in it. But as I got older, I'm not willing to work for pennies. I'm not willing to work for nothing either. And it's been a challenge I've had even over the last few years. I mean, even as long as I've probably known Ted and Michael, they've seen, especially Michael has seen me, talk about raising my prices and really getting to the point where I'm not willing to work unless you want to pay me this amount of money.
Right.
I've really, 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 really learned to value my time as a person. I'm single. I don't have any kids. So I think for a lot of time, I just kind of used that and was like, well, if I can work, I can work. That was always my opinion of things. But as I found, weirdly enough, as I found MMA, as I found an outlet, as I found, and like I said, I do 7 to 8 MMA classes, or kickboxing is my main focus. Kickboxing classes a week, and competitively, like I train to hopefully one day do some competitions.
Nice.
Take it seriously.
Kickboxing is no joke.
I love it. It's weird. I no longer fear pretty much. I mean, I don't fear people anymore. Like, obviously I fear like guns. If you have a gun and I've got my leg, you're going to still kill me.
Right. Yeah. That's how that works.
But, I now know 100% that I can hold my own. It's funny. I'm wearing a shirt that says "Girl, you are a badass" on it right now. Like
nice.
I don't fear many things. Like I don't, I know I can hold my own in life, but it was weird. That was actually a huge catalyst for me being like, I'm done being flexible on my pricing. I'm done taking things that don't interest me. I'm done, because I would rather be in the gym and kicking a bag and hitting a bag than I would be working for less money than I deserve.
Right.
And
you find something that deserves your time, right? And you say like, all right, well, what's going to pull me away from this? For me, it's the kids, right? I'm like, what's enough money to make me leave my house and leave my kids at home for this many hours? What's enough, right? So, coming in, I'm not going to say I priced higher than people, but like, I'm like, I'm not going to come in at the lower end, right? When I made my switch from video to photo, I know what I'm capable of. I'm going to price here. And that's it. Like either I book or I don't, but I know this is what I have to make to leave my house and be away from my kids.
It took me 9 years to get there though.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I know we all, we're all in speakeasy and we all know each other that way. And, everybody's in different journeys there. And a lot of people in that group obviously are very successful and find success pretty quickly is the reality of it. Allegedly. But, one of the things that I'll tell people is like everybody's journey is their own. And my journey isn't your journey. Your journey isn't my journey. And neither of our journeys are correct and neither of our journeys are better. If I got to pay the bills one month, I'll take a discounted wedding and screw you if you want to look down on me for that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that happens, and we all know that happens a lot in our industry. Like, oh, you're undercutting. You know what? I might be, but I got to keep the electric on this month, or I got to pay the mortgage this month, or whatever. Especially, let's all be real, in this whole coronavirus thing.
Oh, this is gonna mix everything up.
Things are gonna get ugly. And
lots
I don't
people
want
are going to
them
be changing their philosophy.
I don't care. I'm like, hands off. Like I'm most likely. I'm going to lose some second shooting work. I'm going to lose some associate work because that's kind of where a lot of my focus has been shifting to over the last year. Weirdly enough, I'm the MBA. I'm the person who has the MBA who doesn't actually really love running a business. I love giving advice. I love helping people through their problems, but I really don't love running a business. So I'm going to lose some work that way. And I do depend on my income actually still to pay the bills. Again, I'm single. I don't have anyone who helps me. I don't live in like a cheap area. I don't live the most frugal lifestyle in the world. I'm not extravagant, but I have a lot of bills. I have to pay them all myself. And I think this is going to show a lot of people, where their humanity is at, between part-timers, between full-timers. And I hate that term, full-time and part-time,
Right.
You know, because I put full-time hours into my business. So between people who sole income is photography and sole income is not photography is the way I like to put it.
Yeah, I do both full time.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I think that there's kind of for people like you and me, people like to look down on us for some odd reason. There's this like, oh, you're not as legitimate. And
I've done that. I've done that to myself. I've given myself the pressure, right?
Hey, now you know why I made that dumpster fire of a post.
I remember that. Well, and that's kind of where I'm going
right.
with.
Yeah,
with
no,
that.
for sure though. It's something that I felt the pressure of, and it didn't click until I was sitting on this exact podcast.
Yeah.
James Webb, and we were talking, and he's an instructor just like me. We both teach.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, like, do you ever think you'll go full time? He's like, no.
Oh no, absolutely not.
I was like, do you want to? He's like, no, I have no desire to do that. And I was like, well, why? Why would you want to do that?
Wrong with that, and it doesn't
100%.
make you any less successful. It
Right.
It means you made a choice for yourself, and that's all it means. I just and I think the coronavirus thing is going to, it's going to test a lot of people, and it's going to test, you know, Tommy, like people like you and I, it's going to test us to be like, well, here's my price. This is what it is. I don't care if you need to reschedule. I'm not undercutting people whose sole livelihood is this money, who are out $15,000 to $20,000 already. I'm not taking food out of your kids' mouths just to make a buck because I can.
That's a conversation Ted and I were having, right? It was, you know, talking about, all right, what do you do for reschedules and stuff like that? Like there is an opportunity. Ted was saying about having people do weekday stuff. Well, I'm not going to take a vacation day to go take a weekday wedding away from somebody else. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, and not that I'm booking that way. You know what I mean? Not that I'm capable of even doing that, of taking it away from somebody else. But let's just say, like, in this type of situation, calm down, Mike. Mike's definitely got coronavirus. Let's be super clear. It's okay though. We appreciate you. Your median age is low enough.
You're here. You're doing the work. It's fine.
You'll probably be fine. You're honestly putting in more of an effort than Ted is right now. No, we talked about. I had an idea for like, oh, you know, like a special you could run at this point. I was like, hey, you should do this. Like, I'm not going to do it. You should do it because it makes sense. I'm not going to take these reschedules. Probably not going to happen. I don't have the reach and I don't have the capacity to do anything that's scheduled on a Thursday or a Friday. Like most of the time, like I'm super limited on what I can take because of the job. And that's a positive and a negative for my business. And other people have more flexibility or don't. I mean, it's going to test both sides, like you're saying, right? It is interesting to see those posts already, though, about like the moral dilemmas on like, what will you do?
What will you do?
Will you pay your seconds? Will you, if something's canceled, will you do other stuff? Dude, I was like, oh man, odd man out on the post about.
I'm going to have my ass chewed out for my opinion, but
yeah.
Actually, no, I think I posted. I don't know. I'd have to circle back to it. I had an opinion. I would pay my seconds a small amount. Right.
Yeah, and
the problem right now that people are going to run into is we're coming out of the slow season. So people have winter funds. Now we're about to hit 8 weeks of no income, which most likely will be longer. A lot of these people, there's no money at all.
I know.
Like, it's not even paid.
I get it.
They're already stretching to set
we
up.
were just talking about here at the Jersey Shore, we had a famous restaurant, not chain, but they own 11 restaurants. They just closed them today. 4 of those are high-end wedding venues. They don't know if they're ever going to reopen.
Yeah.
Like,
it's rough.
It's getting crazy.
Hey, talking to me as the insurance person, I mean, it's so rough. It's so much money that's going to be lost. And it's going to be a test between people who do weddings as their full-time income and people who don't, and everybody having enough respect for everybody. Like, there was a post in another Facebook group, not Speakeasy. It was another sort of group where somebody went off and was like, damn you people who, you have your husbands to rely on and stuff like that. And I had to walk in there and I'd be like, hold on a minute. I said, I want you to understand something, that just because somebody also has a full-time job or has a 9-to-5 job, it doesn't mean that the income that they make on photography or videography or whatever does not help pay the bills.
Right.
the money I make as a photographer I'm not buying Louboutins. I'm not going on extravagant vacations.
What even is that?
Yeah.
I help pay bills with it. My life changed drastically in 2017, and my financial situation went from A to Z in literally 24 hours.
Wow.
And I went from someone who had a shit ton of disposable income. And I literally mean a shit ton of disposable income, because 2017 might have been my best year as a photographer, quite frankly, financially. I did whatever I wanted. I probably went on 6 vacations that year. My vacations, I went to Comic-Cons. I love, again, hey, I go to a lot of Comic-Cons, and I think I went to like 6 different conventions that year. Kind of did whatever I wanted. And in 24 hours, my life went from having to pay X number of bills to having to pay Y number, dollars of bills. And Siri's answering,
she's upset about it.
I went from where photography became disposable income to where photography started to pay bills.
It's essential, right? Essential
and I'm
income.
Still in that position. So I my heart, and I said it when we were talking about, the insurance stuff, my heart breaks for people who, when this is their sole income, more than it breaks for my own heart, because I can still pay 3/4 of my bills because I have a day job. But I think the coronavirus this whole thing is going to really require a lot of us to have, just in general, compassion for each other, to have each other's backs, to help each other in ways that I don't think any of us really have even thought about in the past.
Right.
We've all asked for second shooters, for associates. Hey, can you, we've all looked, and had business, where we've needed people. But I think the way we're going to need each other now is 100% different than we've ever needed each other in the past. Yep. And unfortunately, I made a post on my Facebook yesterday that was received really poorly, and I kind of felt bad about it. I posted about how losing my first second shooting gig in April was going to hurt me. And there's nothing I can do about that. It hurts me. It means that that's one bill I'm not going to be able to pay, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. But, somebody got really offended by the post. Well, at least you have a full-time job. Yes, thank God. At least I do have a full-time job. One, that full-time job is a personal choice. Mm-hmm. Me choosing to do 2 jobs at the same time is a personal choice. But let's not have these pissing matches about who has it worse right now.
Right.
Do I think Mike, and Ted, where this is your sole income? It's rough. It's super rough. But we can't be having pissing matches with each other about it right now.
Right.
We need to support each other and help each other in ways that we can. And we need to realize that at the end of the day, with reschedules and hopefully the way everything's going to go, that we'll actually be able to help each other and recover.
Yeah.
As opposed to it just being people going at each other's throats. Because I felt terrible that person felt like, and then of course my sister jumped in and was trying to defend my honor, and I love her to death. But I was at first I was a little why are you being such an asshole about this?
Right. And it's hard to see both sides, right? It's funny because you see these situations, and hopefully nobody's there's people who post about this. You got to charge a professional rate. You can't charge less. That maybe you need to charge less now to make up that income to just book stuff. I've talked about this many times about if it's January and you managed your money poorly and you've had a shitty situation and you didn't set yourself up for the winter, dude, go out and get that money, right? Go do headshots for $100. Go do whatever you got to do. Just get your fucking bills paid, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully those people who have said the things about you have to charge a professional rate, you have to charge this, aren't like me with keto, where I've talked so much shit about it. Even if I know it's right, I can't do it. right? With these two guys.
I have nothing nice to say about keto ever.
No. They're both keto, and
I know.
it works awesome for them, and there's actually good stuff. There's good science behind it. But I've talked so much shit about it, I could literally never do it now. Right? It would just be bad. So hopefully I haven't done that about charging less, because right now, like, you may need to do that, dude. Go out there, get your money, pay your fucking bills. It's the most important thing.
This brings up a good point, though. That post I made, that dumpster fire of a post, where I was like,
terrible.
Why do people feel the need to go full time? Like, and the whole idea of it was questioning people's motives. Like,
right.
Is it right for you to go full time? Maybe, but if the idea is only so that your peers think you're successful, it's probably not. And what I meant by that was everybody sees like, oh, you know, these people are full time, they're their own boss. Maybe they're seeing like vacations and they got whatever. They assume they have money. But they don't see this, like what just happened this week, where all of a sudden you have no income for an indefinite amount of time. Like you have no idea when the next dollar is going to come back. So it's like all the ups of being full-time, being an entrepreneur, you also have to be ready to face all the downs with it.
Yep.
And
yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
a lot of people are learning that right now.
Oh, for
that,
sure.
Like, you know, their hair is turning gray because, you know,
yeah, it's scary.
a roller coaster ride.
People have money and have kids and families to put food on the table for, and they got all these things, and like that drives passion, right? So that person here, like, you know, why are they being such an asshole about it? It's like they're scared. They're fucking scared right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that too online right now.
Any piece of competition, any piece of anything like that, they're gonna go like, it's almost like a personal attack, right? So that may be the way people are viewing it. It's gonna be tough, man. This next couple months is gonna be.
There's going to be a lot of full-time people trying to go part-time. No,
right. Nah, maybe.
I think this reminds me so much of history. Like if you think back to the Great Depression, when people came out of that, you know, the 20 years after that, people set up habits and ways to live that set them up for success in case something like that happened again. Yeah. And I feel like in our day and age, like I made so many mistakes the last 5 years. Like I went full-time last year. I didn't make good financial choices for this past winter. And I didn't have a savings set aside for anything emergency related like coronavirus. So I'm learning what I should have learned prior to that. And like, I think a lot of people are going to come out of this thinking, man, I need to have a security blanket. Like I need to have something set up aside for myself in case this happens again. Or people are going to make the decision, yeah, you know what? I'm never quitting my day job because I want that security with them. Well, you know, like I worked at a really cool company before that. You know, if something like this happened, I know my friends that still work there now, they're getting paid, you know, even not being there. I can imagine that. So,
well, even the job stuff, but I just read an article that Harvard put out about the whole psychology of buying could change because it's such a shock to the system that the people that even have money, that they may not be scathed by this, but they've seen enough over the edge that it might scare them that, you know, a lot of like the luxuries or unnecessary spending, they might start to think twice about it. Kind of like, you know, that not really the Depression era, but the people that were raised by people from the Depression era were taught to like have envelopes where they put like their food money, their bill money, like they would divvy everything up in the beginning. We might start to see that happen again, which is great, but could also hurt certain industries that are luxuries.
Well, and we've heard this conversation several times from our friend Bo, where he talks about being recession proof, you know, setting up your entire business model, not so that you can, you know, at the moment make the most exact amount of money, but also in the future, keep yourself sustained and keep going. So I think that definitely is playing itself out right now as we speak.
In a way, but the hard part with right now is you got to remember in a recession, some people.
No, we lost him.
What happened to Mike?
He's got that Walmart internet.
Dude, it went back.
Am I back?
There you are.
Hey, you're back.
I was like, whoa, was that me?
Oh, fuck you just say? I got so scared.
Am I back?
He disappeared into the darkness.
What I was going to say is, Ted, you were mentioning the recession-proof businesses. In the recession, a certain industry went down, but the rest of the people still had some sort of income. True. Like if you were out of business, you could at least find a job. Right now, what we're seeing is the whole world is shutting down.
Shutting down.
It's insane.
That's why it's going to be so imperative, even as business owners and as people in the same communities, that we really were there for each other. Like, you know, rising tide, and there's that whole idea of community over competition and that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, like, hell, we all see it, like referral posts. Oh, I'm available. Like, we're all fucking available all of the time.
I went to a Rising Tide this morning, like their first online thing. I did that first time. It was fun.
But it's really going to take, it really is going to take people looking out for each other and supporting each other. And I'm not saying like, Tommy, give me your business. We all really
I don't have any. So it's
yeah, there's nothing to give.
And
you can have it right now.
Yeah, sure. I'll sell it to you. I mean,
wait, we all have to understand that we're all gonna hurt from this. Like we're all gonna hurt from this. And we have to not put each other down, and we have to lift each other from an emotional and a business standpoint. Tommy comes to me and is like, hey, like I really need to pay the electric. Like do you have any ideas? I can't be like, no, I have none because I want all the money.
Here's the idea. Atlantic City Electric is not doing shutoffs during the coronavirus and will not be doing any over or late fees or anything like that. They send out emails. So just don't fucking pay them.
It was proposed today. You can't quote me on this, but they're starting to put together the packages.
We can't quote you on this. This is recorded. They'll literally be able to quote you on it.
So we know Italy has suspended utility payments, mortgage, and rent. France today enacted that they did it, and Governor Cuomo in New York put forth that they want to do it in New York, and Trump also mentioned it today. So we may even see that here.
New York said it was only free gabagool.
And they did say that, but everyone was like, what the fuck is that?
Where's the free gabagool and the free mozzarella?
Where's the galamad? And they're like, there's no D in that. There's no D in that word.
There's no G either. Fuck it. Who cares?
So from a personal standpoint, I mentioned about having the terrible client that almost caused me to quit business.
Pointing at you.
It goes back to having support and losing money. I lost when I was talking about, overnight, I suddenly had to come up with all this extra money and my photography became not fun money anymore. It became, I had to pay the bills.
Yeah.
It was my grandmother and she lived with me and we had a roommate relationship. She paid half the bills. I paid half the bills. And, she passed away very suddenly. And overnight I had to come up with all the extra money. And, so I had to go through the part where I had to email clients, in an uncomfortable situation, like a lot of people are having to email about coronavirus. When she went on hospice, I had to send an email that said like, hey, here's the situation. There's a chance I might not be able to be at your wedding. But I want you to know that I've gone through the steps of making sure someone will be there. You'll be well taken care of. I did all that. And I got an email from a client that ripped me to shreds and told me I was a terrible person. I was ruining their wedding. I was giving the bride undue stress and they wanted all of their money back and, so on and so forth. And I got that email the day of my grandmother's funeral. She passed very quickly after I had sent that original email. But I felt safe because I said to the clients, I will let you know if I can't be at your event.
Yeah.
So when she passed within 24 hours of sending that email, I'm like, let me get through this and then I'll email everybody and let everybody know it's okay. I was an idiot who decided to check my email on the way to the funeral home. And I got this email. And I remember it was probably the least professional email I've ever sent in my life. I replied back with, don't worry, she's dead. I'll be at your wedding. Yeah, it was terrible. Their response back to me was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause any undue stress. I'm like, you wouldn't have sent that email if you didn't mean to cause any undue stress. Let's be real.
Ted's fired off one of those emails. That's why he'll always have only 4.9 stars on his review sites.
Well, and so I learned that you can take people at face value sometimes. My second shooter wanted to back out on that wedding when I told her everything that was happening. I said, please don't. Yeah. I need you. We went and shot the wedding. We fucking killed it. It rained all day to ugly weather. Destroyed that wedding. Couple of things I look back at and I'm just like, man, I wish that idiot wouldn't have stepped in my light when I was shooting that image or, stuff like that. But killed it. And 6 months or so after I delivered their gallery, I got a 2-star review on the Knot about how much they hated everything and how terrible I was and everything. And it's like, sometimes you have to take people at face value, but the point is that, you know, we have to lift each other up when these ugly things happen, and we can't bash each other for needing to pay the bills. Because right after that happened, I was kind of that person in speakeasy that everybody hated, because I was like, oh, I'll take that $1,500 wedding. Oh, I'll take that $2,500 wedding. I'll take that, because the reality is I couldn't pay the electric bill unless I booked something, because my bills they doubled in a 24-hour period, and my income didn't double in a 24-hour period.
I don't think those people hate the people that are undercutting. I think it's a misplaced fear or a misplaced, sometimes anger in themselves, as in, you know, maybe they don't want to put in the work to learn how to market, to learn how to sell, and they want to, you know, keep that artist style of, if you make it, they will come, or you'll sell on your quality, and if there are undercutters, they're the reason you're not booking. I think that's usually more what it is. We saw that in that business talk we just did. We talked about this a lot, and like a lot of great things came up. You know, and it wasn't what it seemed like when people were writing it in their posts. Like you automatically run it as like, wow, this person's a dick. But then when they said it like in person, when they would say it in person, you're all
right. And their experience is going to be different than your experience. That's the other thing that came up with that talk, right? Is like, I'm not seeing myself get undercut. I've been raising my prices and I've been booking, right? But this person is seeing they've been at this price at booking, and then all of a sudden, people are not booking at that same price. People are going with somebody a little cheaper. Well, it's like, okay, well, is it a problem with the product? Is it a problem with the pond you're fishing in for the, you know, the marketing you're doing, the leads you're looking at? Like, you know, what's the problem? It's not the lower competition, because there's always been and always will be somebody who will do it for cheaper, right?
It's just now we're all going to really have to, I think, lift each other up. We're all going to have to look out for each other. Yeah. Because we're really, even those of us who have full-time income, like, it's still, you know, you budget. Right. I'm going to have this job and it's going to pay me $1,000, and this, you know, we all just need to lift each other up.
Right. I just bought a brand new bidet I need to pay for. All right. This shit has got to go down. That's right. No, I did not buy a bidet, but I plan on it. I want on my bucket list.
After this, I mean, I think you're dumb if you don't get one, you know?
I mean, you're probably right. I'm glad that it's popularized it. I've been following that Your Mom's House podcast for a long time, since Mike told me about it, and they use a bidet and they talk very highly of it. And I've wanted a Toto washlet for a long time.
Yeah.
Just get the cleanest asshole. It's the best. Super important.
Wow.
Yeah, we went there. All right.
Power wash that bad boy.
I love it. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're gonna have to look out for each other.
Everything's gonna work out. Like, honestly, like, you know, I know everyone has a different opinion about this, but my optimism has really carried me through life in a good direction, I feel like. And my judgment,
I mean, it left you in that chair.
I'm very comfortable in this chair. I will do this every time. But I'm very certain that things are going to go back to a level of normal that we saw previously. Obviously, some things are going to change, but, you know, it's not going to be forever. Definitely not. You know, things are going to get back together. And what's really great, too, I was telling my wife, like, the sense of community that we have in our industry, in our country, in our communities, like, the people around us are going to help build us up. Like, my parents and my wife's parents are helping us in a lot of different ways through this whole thing. You know, that's important, to have family, to have friends, to have community of people that are going to bring you up through the hard times. And it's important for you to learn from your mistakes. That's like my big goal this year, is to learn from my mistakes so that I am prepared for anything that can come about in the future.
This is the warm up for the zombie apocalypse, Ted. So get ready.
Yeah, hey, it could, you know, you never know.
Start your hoarding now.
Get yourself a sledgehammer.
Listen, jail is closed. When is jail closed?
That is crazy. They did talk about that.
Like,
did they
okay,
actually do it?
Which jail is closed?
Disneyland and Disney World, that was like, all right, this is getting crazy. Then
Makes
Amazon
sense.
only shipping medical supplies from now on. You're like,
That
Oh,
was
wait,
only
what?
that wasn't in the U.S. though. That was somewhere else.
right,
Okay,
it's
yeah, I was
about
gonna
to-
say I
That
gotta
was in
order
the
some more
UK,
cookies.
but yeah, that needs to happen.
One, Ted, you probably should because that's coming here.
Yeah.
I got more
It's
Quest
definitely
cookies.
they're speculating it's
To
gonna
say I gotta
close in
order
the
some more
UK,
cookies.
but yeah, that needs to happen.
One, Ted, you probably should because that's coming here.
Yeah.
I got more
It's
Quest
definitely
cookies.
they're speculating it's gonna happen in the U.S. Last thing I had seen it was just the UK, but
Jail
That's
being
gonna
closed
suck.
is in. Oh, she left. Now I can't tell my story, Jeni Green.
what's happening?
Oh, Tommy, do you have the script for Audible? I was trying to find it.
No.
All right, we need that.
What?
We need the script for
Just-
Audible.
Just copy and paste it from the other episode.
Can we do that?
Just cut it and drop at the beginning. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's on your mom's house. He's the same clip of him saying, "This episode is sponsored by Sattva Luxury Mattresses." Sattva, you get it. You get the point.
Who's editing this? I'm totally not going to.
Just cut it in, dude. Why not?
Yeah, bro. Come on, Mike.
Hey, guys,
Put it in for the
welcome to
bank
this-
account we don't have.
Welcome to this economically depressing show. Why don't you buy an Audible description, you silly?
Well, hey, no. How we can lead in with it is, during all this downtime when you're at home and nothing else to do, why don't you listen to some Audible books?
Because
Yeah,
nobody does that
let's do
shit.
that.
You say, hey, on your drive to the job you used to have, you would listen to audiobooks, and now you don't have that anymore. Thanks for bringing it up, Ted.
Welcome to
Or-
Wedding Crashers. Hey,
Fuck
you piece
you.
of shit. We know your life's been canceled.
Here
Read
we
a
go.
book.
Here it is. While
That's
you
Ted's
walk through the
method for brides.
cemetery,
Hey,
while you walk
Brad,
through
I
the
know your
cemetery
wedding
with
was
your
canceled,
spouse,
but here's some things to
you
do
can
at your
listen to
canceled
Audible.
wedding.
So, circle back as I ran away from that. You
got Mike's
mentioned,
cough.
Mike, you mentioned Disney World closing.
Yeah.
So fucked
I
up.
actually worked at Disney on 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So, talking about Disney closing,
Did it close on 9/11?
yes.
Okay.
I was
Wow.
actually there when it happened and had to
Wow.
be one of the people that was like, you need to leave. You
Hey,
need to
guys.
leave."
Time to go.
It's at least this time it was, hey, the park, there was advance notice. It was like, hey, we're closing on March 14th when we close. Like 9/11 was like, nope.
Think about this shit, right? So, like, I went in January, February, somewhere in there. March and April. I started the song. I might as well go with it. It was February. And I know that we planned our trip 6 months or more in advance, probably a year in advance. And then we started doing some shit. And we go like pretty frequently. There are families who like save up for years to be like, hey, we're fucking taking you to Disney. And then somebody tries to eat a fucking bat in another country. And all of a sudden we got this goddamn coronavirus. And now you don't get to go? Fuck those people.
Well, a lot
And
of
that
people were really mad at them for not closing fast enough. But
I
what a
know.
lot of people don't realize is,
Yeah.
dude, people from all over the world go to Disney World, and the airlines were starting to shutter. You can't just release them from all 27 hotels and be like, fucking have a good day.
See ya.
There's a lot that goes into that whole
Fuck yeah.
thing. I mean, when we closed on 9/11, it wasn't a situation where we were telling people to get out of the resort. So it was a little bit different. In fact, we said, go back to your resort.
Right.
And one of the coolest things I've ever seen, Disney, like they freed up long distance calling. Like there was no charge from the rooms to make long distance calls.
Is that when we had minutes?
Probably.
It was like stay, they were finding places for people to stay. People who worked in the parks were going to the resorts to help provide entertainment. They were providing food. It was this amazing sense of community because it wasn't a situation where creating community was going to make people sick.
Right.
So it
Right.
wasn't that they needed to kick people out of the resorts too. One of the most heartbreaking things about the Disney aspect of all of this was, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but there are a lot of people who work at Disney during college. It's called the Disney College Program.
Yeah, I heard about this. Oof.
And they basically sent an email to the college program people who was like, hey, you have to be out by March 14th. Sorry, your program is over. Get the fuck out. And people who did the Disney College Program,
Was that verbatim?
Yes, it was exactly how the email was.
But in the mouse
Probably
voice, Ted.
not.
In the mouse voice.
Fuck
you.
It was like, these are kids who,
You can pick it up and get the fuck out.
not a lot of them, not all of them have a lot of money, and it does cost you money to do the program. You have to pay for your housing. You have to pay fees to get there. you're taking a semester or usually off of college to go do this. Sometimes you get college credits for it. Sometimes you don't. And it was just kind of like, you got to leave.
It's a lot. Yeah, that sucks.
Actually my cousin is down there and doing the college program, and they were like, you got to leave. And luckily my aunt was like, I'm coming, I got you, don't worry, boo, like, you're safe. But there's a lot, and it was the international kids too, because there are people who come from overseas to do an international program.
Yep.
But not all of them can even get home at this point, So this whole thing is crazy from an insurance standpoint, from an income standpoint, from a humanity standpoint, and just everybody being a decent human being. Stop stealing toilet paper out of old people's hands, you assholes. Like, did anyone
happen?
see that video?
Yeah,
No.
but like we're gonna survive and need the toilet paper.
There's literally a video of some like middle-aged woman snatching toilet paper out of an old
I hate to say it this way, but like, have you seen a fucking Black Friday video? Okay, that's day-to-day business in the U.S., man. I'm not surprised by that shit at all.
Bullshit. We're all way too fucking selfish.
Hey, if you're too slow to grab that shit back, you don't deserve it.
I just said that
kidding,
to
kidding.
I just said that to my wife. We were talking about, because they keep talking about if they have to do mandatory 14-day quarantine where they're just like, hey, you got 72 hours, go get food, and then we're locking down. I was like, one, make sure we shop before those 3 days, because if you thought Black Friday was bad, dude, they're gonna kill people in those stores.
Fuck yeah.
So
That's
all I have to
my Lucky
say,
Charms.
I did not clean my leaves up for the last like 6 months, so I'm ready with the toilet paper issue. I got it. We're good.
Yeah.
all I have to say is I cannot wait for the South Park episode of this year. It's going to be awesome. I know it's going to be amazing.
I can't believe you're laughing at other people's misfortunes.
Well, no, I'm not. They have a good. It's
What
not
a
me
great
laughing.
intro you gave.
You are
you
just
insincere
They
bastard.
bring a very interesting perspective to every situation. I just love seeing what they do with it.
Nah, it was a great show. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
it's,
so-
go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just going to say goodbye.
Oh, we're done? Okay.
I mean,
guess
yeah, this is-
later, Jenny. Fuck, whatever.
I mean, unless we're trying to break a record, I think we already did. This is the
Do y'all
longest
have
episode.
any last insurance
not, but-
questions? I mean, we got off that, but
Listen, the show is supposed to be 90% entertainment, like 10% the stuff.
Oh,
we
I
did
can
put out
bring
some
the
good
entertainment.
information.
Wah, wah,
Information.
no.
No, dude. No. What? Fuck no. God, nobody asked for that.
whoa.
No. Jesus Christ. Look like you had a whole fucking slice of pepperoni under there. Jesus
One on each
Christ.
side.
Oh,
And he means deli pepperoni, not
Yeah,
even
right.
stuff with pizzas.
look like a fucking coffee saucer. Hey, so if people wanted to like find you, get your information, what's your address and social security number? No, I'm just kidding. Where can they find you online?
I mean, so if you have questions, I'm JeniGreen.com. So JENI, green, just like the color. Even if it's insurance related, hit me up there, I would say is the best way, just because I don't want to put my employer on blast today.
Right.
Too many opinions going on here, but I'm always happy to help people. I try to jump in when I can, give people general information, point them in the right direction. If I'm going to leave people with the biggest parting words I can, get professional liability. Gosh, God damn it. Do not have professional liability.
Awesome.
Do not have just a little bit of professional liability. You need to have realistic professional liability insurance as a creative. Otherwise, you are doing yourself a disservice. Stop being cheap. Stop. Just protect yourself. Get professional liability. Get a proper amount of professional liability. That's
Awesome.
But, yeah.
So JeniGreen.com, JENIGREEN.com.
Yep.
And rapid fire last questions. I'll do mine first. Like the shortest possible way to answer this.
We do
Drones, are they worth trying to insure?
100% you need drone insurance.
Okay. That was mine. Ted? Nope. Mike?
What's your favorite cheeseburger?
My favorite cheeseburger is the Boar Burger from Bear Burger.
Fuck.
Okay.
She actually had an
I
answer
don't
for
know
that.
what any of those words mean, but I want it.
That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't know what those mean. Yeah, I definitely want one.
Mike?
Yeah, I got no questions, Jenny. You killed it. You gave us so many
Yeah.
good nuggets of information, from the professional insurance to having the proof of the people working under you's insurance. This has been awesome.
Yeah, seriously
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
been a lot of fun.
We had an awesome time. At least two of us decided to sit up for this. One of us thought it was, I guess, okay to be
After
laying
this
down.
podcast is over, I'm just gonna sleep the rest of the night like this.
Be ready for bed.
Not surprising. All right. So it was super nice having you on the Wedding Crashers podcast. JeniGreen.com again with any questions and photography and insurance needs. And then you got me, Mike, and Guy in Chair.
Everybody needs a montage.